How we doing, everybody? And welcome into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. We are coming back. It's Friday. It's finally Friday. Oh, man. These holiday weeks, they just get to me because, you go to work. This week I worked on Monday, had off on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I went back to work on Thursday and Friday. That's just odd. I don't like that, right? I like when Christmas leads me into the weekend, right? If it's a Friday Christmas, there ain't nothing better than that because then you can just, relax, get ready for the weekend, everything. You get that 4-day weekend, 5-day weekend for some people. I know the people over at ESPN, they get like 2 weeks off, it seems like. The radio show is all day long. You're listening to them, and usually it's Chris Canty's on in the morning on Sportsmanlike, and now I don't even know who the heck's been on there as of late, but it's all Lamar Jackson this and Lamar Jackson that, so I turn it off anyways, right? I mean, I get over it, but it's one of those things, right? It's just, the holiday break for ESPN is something. Dan Patrick's off too. It's like, what do I do with my afternoons now without Dan Patrick? He's on in the morning, but we don't get him here until the afternoon. So I was listening to him about 2:00 in the afternoon. No, Dan Patrick, and it's like I don't even know what to do with myself right now. You just scroll through Twitter and see what happens. So, we got lots to get into today. Packers, Vikings coming up this weekend. We're going to have a special guest, Dustin, joining us later here. Big Vikings guy. We're going to talk to him a little bit about this upcoming matchup. We got Bucks, Badgers. We got everything to get into today. So I got Aaron with me. He's got the Penn State attire on today. He forgot that the college football playoff is not until next weekend. It's not tonight. It's not today. It's not tomorrow. It's next weekend. But Aaron's here tonight. Aaron, how we doing on this Friday? Finally the weekend.
No, you're exactly right. I will say that those second tier guys on the radio to me are always not good. Like they are never worth a listen. So like whenever ESPN's on a break or one of these, networks, man, the second teamers, they just, I know it's hard, it's big shoes to fill there, but it's a hard listen, man. I'll be honest with you. It's a hard listen for me. I've tried some of those second tier, just no, but yeah, doing well. Weather's kind of ticked up around here. It's like in the 40s, which feels like it's 70 degrees after, those single digits and teens. So yeah, not bad. It's kind of calming down with the holidays, wrapping up with the Christmas, but we'll be right back here for the New Year's and it'll, just pick right back up. So you're exactly right. Those holiday weeks, I do kind of like it. It's just, it kind of gets exhausting, but then the way I look at it, the rest of the year is kind of normal and just day-to-day normal stuff. So I appreciate the kind of, up and down roller coaster that the holiday season is.
Not next weekend, though. Next week, same thing, though. We got New Year's Day. We got off of work, so we got to work Monday, Tuesday. You get off that day, and then you got to come back.
It's the Wednesday effect. Like that sucks.
Middle of the week having off is odd. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And you know what? Also, somebody doesn't like Xavier Lucas is not a big fan of the Badgers right now because he's trying to get out, right? So I've been seeing this all over Twitter today, and I knew Xavier Lucas was trying to get out of Madison. I knew there was some stuff going on there. We don't know what is going on. All we know is that Xavier Lucas is telling us, hey, I want out of this place. And the Badgers, they aren't letting him go. They're not letting him enter the transfer portal. So everybody out there, there's the speculations and everything like that. What's going on, right? Just let this guy go. He deserves better than that. He should be able to be, jump into the portal and do what he wants to do and everything like that. And I get it, right? You want this guy to be able to get enrolled in spring classes, everything in between. But what's holding it up? Right? Something has to be holding up. Wisconsin, I would hope not, right? I hope they're not dumb enough to sit there and say, well, let's just hold out. Maybe if we just hold out, then he'll have to come back. No, I hope they're not dumb enough to think that. There is something in the waters, right? Whether it's an NIL deal. I don't have any information on an NIL contract, right? But there could be money that's owed. Somebody owes somebody money. And, well, most likely Xavier Lucas didn't fulfill his end of the bargain, right? There's something that's going on in the waters, whether there was tampering. You know what? I don't know if there was tampering, but what I've heard, there was tampering. Miami was talking to him before he even left Wisconsin, which we know there's been a lot of that, right? Wisconsin was just in the news last season there with AJ Storr on the basketball team. They said that in February, he was already talking to other places. He was talking to Kansas. He was talking to these other universities. You know what? That's crappy. That's crappy. There should be something against that. If you tamper, you get penalized. That's how it should be. I don't know why it's not. I don't know why there isn't a written rule that says that, but there definitely should be. Now, in this situation, like I said, I don't have a contract in front of me. I don't know what the deal is. Nobody knows, right? All we know is from the tweets that we keep seeing from Xavier Lucas is this guy wants out. Wisconsin is essentially saying, well, we have no comment, right? We get no comment. The varsity collective leader, he says no comment, right? So we don't know what Wisconsin's saying. Usually I saw it was like they have a 48 hour period from the time the document is filed to put the waivers out there, let them essentially jump into that transfer portal. It's past the 48 hours. This was December 19th that he requested to jump in there. So now what is going on? Why is there? I mean, he's got an uproar going on at this point here. I was just going to try, and I had the tweet in front of me before there.
And yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Did you see the tweet out there by him? And yeah, basically like, it's almost like we're holding him at gunpoint at this point here. Like, it's like, help, like, please just help me out of this. And it's like our hands tied, right? Because you would think, and this is just my opinion, you would think we're at December 27th. He filed for it December 19th, I do believe. I was just going to, yes, according to 24/7 Sports, he entered the transfer portal as of December 19th. So as of December 19th, he tried to jump in. That's 8 days now. We're 8 days into this. You would have thought that if there wasn't something going on in the inner workings, the NCAA would have jumped in and said, hey, you got to let this guy go. Like, push the papers through, do what you got to do. And that's going to be the next step. If the Badgers keep, pondering this, like, I don't know what the heck's going on, right? But they keep holding out, well, then legal actions will be taken. But my question is why it already hasn't gotten to that, right? Well, I know we're only 8 days in, but why has nobody there's you have all these journalists out there and they're just speculating and they're just telling you what they think and everything like that. Nobody knows truthfully what's going on. But my question is why is there just Twitter? Why are we just seeing tweets, right? All he's doing is tweeting. Why is there no action? Why have we not heard anything from the NCAA? Why have we not heard anything from Wisconsin, right? Because you would have thought the Badgers would be seeing all this. They'd see all their fans, their future transfer portal ads, right? Because you don't want transfers seeing this and saying, well, if we go there, there's a possibility they don't let us leave. Like, they're locking us in the basement and throwing away the heat. Like, what is going on, right? So it's just odd. It is odd that, Wisconsin hasn't commented, which makes me think that there's something going on. And the thing that I keep circling back to is there was some kind of NIL money being paid out, and Xavier Lucas didn't fill the boat. He didn't fulfill his end. So in that sense, is there money owed back, right? Because now you're leaving. Is there money owed back to the university? And that's why they won't push that paper through. I don't know. I mean, Aaron, you're hearing all this and you're like, I mean, Penn State guy, but you're hearing all this. And you're like, what is going on in Madison right now?
I mean, yeah, you have to at least raise your eyebrow to it because I think it's one of those, there's Xavier Lucas's story, there's Wisconsin's story, and then there's probably the truth in somewhere in the middle of that. Because, if he was completely free to go, I highly doubt any team that cares about their public image would do this. Like, I just don't think it's in the best interest of a school to have this, kind of cloud on their university right now. So I would think, like you said, I would think there's an NIL type of deal, or there was like a signed agreement. There's got to be something, whether it's money related or some type of obligation that he didn't fulfill. That's what I would think. If it is that type of thing, I'm not sure why Wisconsin hasn't said, hey, there's some discrepancies in why we're not going to let him walk out the door, right? That's what I would kind of expect to hear from them, and the fact that their silence a little strange, but these type of things get covered up all, like there's a back and forth between player university or university player all the time, so it is weird. Don't get me wrong. He went on to say I still intend to transfer, but at the moment, Wisconsin's refusing to release me into the transfer portal. And then he goes on to say, I've met all NCAA requirements of the transfer portal process. I've yet to be put in the transfer portal by Wisconsin, which is impeding my ability to speak with schools. So, yeah, he hasn't spoken to anybody. And now, we're, like you said, we're like 8 days into the process. So he's kind of up a creek without a paddle. I mean, it's just like obviously a school, like any school, I mean, if you want to leave, I I mean, unless they throw money in your face, probably that's the only way that he comes back. But I mean, he's in a tough situation now because, you know, he's kicking the tires, like thinking, what do I do? You know, I'm trying to go somewhere else. I don't even have the chance to go somewhere else, but I don't want to go back to Wisconsin. Like, I don't know how this is going to play. I mean, this could be a mess. This could be like a court case type deal. I mean, I like you said, the legal action's going to get taken probably because he's quickly running out of time in this, you know, portal window.
Yep. And you know, the biggest thing, and we got one across the text in line here, a question coming in, and it said, do you think that this could hurt the future recruitments for the Badgers there? Could it hurt, you know, recruits, transfers, everything like that? You know, because they went on to say, if they don't come out and say why is this going on? Yes, I think it does. I'm not going to say it does right now. It won't right now. What I'm saying is if, let's just say, hypothetical world, tomorrow morning we wake up and Xavier Lucas is granted the ability to leave the Badgers. He's granted his transfer portal. He can go. Yay. Everything's great, right? But Wisconsin doesn't tell us why. There's no comment, right? No comment from Wisconsin of why it happened. They just keep saying no comment and let's just move on from it. Yeah, that could hurt. That could hurt definitely because we never got that reason. Now, if the Badgers come out and they say, you know what? There was some NIL stuff going on. We just wanted to get it all straightened out. We wanted to get all of this done. Okay, great. Move on, right? But if you come out and you don't say a word, right, and you don't tell us anything outside of like, yeah, Xavier is a great player and we're sad to see him go, but hopefully he finds success somewhere else. That's all they say. I don't like that. I don't like that. If I'm a transfer portal guy, if I'm a recruit coming in and I'm like, maybe this isn't the best decision because I just saw the process that Xavier Lucas had to go through. I think, though, I seriously think that this is deeper than the Badgers just don't want to lose this guy. This is deeper than that. This is I don't know if it's a tampering thing. I don't know, but I'm looking at the NIL side of it. And I'm saying there is something going on with the NIL portion of this that is causing and forcing the Badgers or Wisconsin, the university, to say, oh, we got to wait, right? You got to figure out your end of this. And then here's the paper, right? Then we'll send it through. But until you figure out your side, sorry, buddy, you're stuck. You're stuck here. And it sucks. It really does, because in this day and age, you got to get to this other university. You got to set up classes. You got to get in your spring schedule. I don't know what Xavier Lucas is doing for a major, but you never know. It could be anything from sports marketing to, engineering. I'm guessing not engineering, but you can, only guess what he's doing in college right now. But you want to see him be able to get off to that next university, get set up for that, because then also spring practices too. He's got to be involved in spring practices, which means he's got to be enrolled in the university to get those. So, right now it's hurting Xavier Lucas's opportunity, and it really puts into question, and we're going to find out, right? Like you said, there's two sides of this story. We've heard Xavier Lucas's kind of side where he's telling us like, they ain't let me out. Like I've met all the requirements to transfer, but yet they aren't letting me out. We haven't heard of Wisconsin's side. We haven't heard the real side, right? And that's that middle ground that you were talking about there. So, at this point here, we all we're doing is speculating. Nobody knows, right? And that's the biggest thing I want to come on here and say. Like, nobody knows, but something deeper is going on. And I'm interested now. I'm fascinated by this story, and I can't wait to see the outcome. I don't know, actually. I don't know if I want to say can't wait to see the outcome. But I'm looking at this, and I'm saying I'm interested to see what happens and what the cause was, and if it's going to get straightened out here moving forward. Because if this is the first case of, let's just say, contract wasn't met or, tampering was involved, I'm saying hats off to Wisconsin for holding your guns, right? Because you don't want to have this happen again to another university. You're holding your guns. Now, if it's something silly, okay, now it changes our perspective on it. So we're going to wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens with Xavier Lucas there. Another guy, an interesting guy, and we did see on TikTok there. We got a comment over on TikTok that said, not a good sign. Warm Kids, Wisconsin. Make sure you guys, if you haven't yet, I know we've mentioned it a couple times on the show, but make sure if you haven't yet, get over there, follow Warm Kids, Wisconsin over there on TikTok, Facebook. I believe he's got an Instagram over there. He is a non-for-profit organization. They get kids around central Wisconsin warm clothes for the winter. We all know how cold it can get here in the state of Wisconsin in the winter. They do their darndest to get these kids some warm boots, snow pants, everything they need to have fun outside while staying warm. So make sure you check them out. Donate if you can. Give them a follow along, see what they do. They are fantastic. Nothing but fantastic there. Check out the videos and everything like that over on TikTok, etc. there. So make sure you're checking them out. But yeah, I would agree. Not a good sign. We'll wait and see what happens there with Xavier Lucas. But we did see one more transfer. Didn't get into it the other day. I just wanted to mention here quick, and that was Tyree Walker. Now, recently, the NCAA put another rule in that said if, you play JUCO ball, it doesn't count towards your eligibility anymore. So Tyree Walker, I didn't know he was still eligible to play another year, but apparently he was. So a lot of people didn't know that Tyree Walker was technically still coming back, and now he's in the transfer portal. It's a loss, right? I'm not going to sit here, and say that Tyree Walker isn't a loss for the Badgers, because I truthfully believe he is. I mean, would you say that he was the best running back in college football? No. But on a subpar Wisconsin team, he was a good back. He was good. He wasn't top 10 all time in Wisconsin running backs, right? But I mean, that's a hard list to crack, being in the top of anything with Wisconsin running backs. But I mean, he was a solid back, solid for what you got out of him. Nothing crazy. I was just trying to pull up his stats there. I didn't have him off the top of my head. I believe he was over 800 yards on the ground.
Yeah, 864, 10 tutties there.
Yeah.
4.5 yards a carry. This just talking this year, collective unit for this year. But yeah, I mean, not bad. I mean, but yeah,
no, he's not a dominant back on a good team, right? He's not a great back on a good team, but he's a good number 2, number 3 back on a good team, which I feel like possibly could be his next place that he lands, right? I don't know where he's going to land yet. It kind of seems like he'd be I'd hate to see Indiana get him, but like a Notre Dame power run kind of guy. Like he's not a breakaway guy. He's more of a bruiser of a running back. And he didn't have a bad year with Wisconsin. I thought, part of it was the offensive line didn't play up to snuff at times. Part of it was the lack of a passing game that, didn't help him out in the run game. So, we'll wait and see what he does with the rest of his career there. But I just want to say that it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure having him in Madison there. But I'm not losing a guy like that. I don't want to say it doesn't hurt, but I'm also intrigued by these younger backs that the Badgers have. I'm intrigued by them. They have Darian Dupree back there. And I mean, last year got a little bit of work, nothing crazy. He got some fill-in time there. I loved what I saw out of him. He's an explosive back. He was great in the pass game, right? And I'm excited to see what Darian Dupree can bring. And then I'm also looking at Dillian Jones, another promising freshman back from this last season there. Didn't see as much time as what Dupree did, but I'm excited to see those two get a bulk of the action. Simply because those two have a lot of skill. And if you keep Tyree Walker for one more year, and this is the way college football works now, if you keep Tyree Walker for one more year, he's not going to be your number 3 back. He's going to be a 1 or a 2. So now what do you do with these two young guys who you expect to be good? If you sit them guys for another year, right? If you sit them for another year, they're gone. See you later. If they don't get a bulk of the carries, we talked about this. We've talked about it many times. If you are currently playing at a university and you feel like you should be getting some playing time there, you're a highly touted recruit, everything like that, and you don't get that playing time, transfer portal. See you later. I could find playing time, right? I think Dupree, Dillian Jones, those guys can get playing time. I mean, over at Penn State, they can get playing time wherever they want. They're two dynamic backs who can do it. They are good in the run game. They're good in the pass game. They can do a little bit of both for you. So if you continuously overlook these guys, you keep adding transfers, right? And that's where my nervousness comes when, I always hear like, we should go after this guy in the transfer portal. We should go after another quarterback. We should go after this. We should, it just hinders what guys are going to be able to do next year, right? We see Mabry, Matator, we never really saw him with the Badgers. I don't believe everybody was like, let's start Mabry when Brain Locke was struggling. And it's like, do we think Luke Fickell's dumb enough that if Mabry was ready to go, we wouldn't have put Mabry in? Like, I think the guy knows a little bit of enough to have this guy's going to give us a better shot. We put him in there. So it made me nervous about Mabry's development of what he was doing there, Madison. I don't know what the case was, but that's where I was kind of at with that. But with these two, I think that they're going to be ready to go. And Tyree Walker moving on, yeah, it's not. I don't want to say it's a bad. I don't want to say it's a good thing, but it's not a bad thing, right? Good for Tyree. Hopefully, he gets on a good team, is able to do some things. Good for Wisconsin because now you get these two backs in there. Even a guy like Cade Yakamele, we talked about him last season. We were like, why is this guy not getting more time running the football? I believe his average was like 8.3 yards per carry, and we kept saying to ourselves, like, why is Cade Yakamele not getting more time out there? Why? I mean, he's like a Garrett Groshek kind of guy with the Badgers. I mean, why is he not getting more time? We couldn't figure it out. Maybe that gives Cade Yakamele because we were all worried he was going to transfer. Maybe he's like, okay, well, Tyree Walker's gone. It's Jones. It's Dupree. Maybe I get some time in the backfield now. So you give some of these younger guys a chance, which I think you have to do because otherwise, if you keep pulling in transfers and you keep these old, I mean, not old, but older guys, right, hindered from going into the transfer portal, they stay pat and stay put with you in Madison there, you're going to lose out on some of these guys, some of the talent that you're bringing in the recruiting floor of it there. Same with, I mean, you look at the recruits coming in, right? We got Jalen Williams coming in, the defensive lineman. If you don't give him some time, if he's ready to go, you don't give him some time, you worry about him walking out the door, right? There's guys that you can look at and you can say, if you want to leave, like, dude, you're going to go to William & Mary or something. Like, you got time to develop here. Let's just slow it down, right? But there's guys who have that talent that if you leave them sit for too long, they're not going to stick around. They're not going to stick around for that. They're going to go get playing time somewhere because what the heck's the point of them staying in Madison and developing for 3 years underneath of a guy when they could just move on and get playing time right off the bat and show their skills right now and get more money right now? Those are the things that you got to look at there. So, I mean, I like to move. I'm caught for words and how to say it. It's not a bad thing. That's what I want to say. It's not a bad thing for either side. I think both sides will get what they want out of this deal. Tyree Walker will move on. He'll get some playing time elsewhere. And then the Badgers, they get some young backs with a lot of skill and a lot of potential to get into that Jeff Grimes offense there starting up in 2025. So I can't wait. I think it was a good move on both sides of it there. But Aaron, the Badgers, they have 25 outgoing transfers, right? And a couple of them, I mean, you look down the list, the Xavier Lucas one, that hurts. He was a highly touted cornerback coming in there. He's now entering the transfer, attempting to enter the transfer portal there. We'll see what happens with all that, but he's attempting to enter the transfer portal. Will Pauling, he's heading out to Notre Dame there. CJ Williams is going to Stanford. Braden Locke, he's going to Arizona. Saw that today. He committed to Arizona, so good for him. Good for him. Good for Arizona, I think, right? Good for both. Good for both. Good for both getting out there. But I'm looking at, the transfer portal class, and there's 25 guys going out, which it seems like a lot, right? And I see all over the place. Badger fans are like, oh my God, 25? Like, Luke Fickell sucks. He can't keep these guys around. Like, what is going on? And he's freaking out, right? Everybody's freaking out. Take a deep breath. Okay? Take a deep breath. Ohio State's going to have 25 guys leave. Penn State is going to have 25 guys leave. Now, give or take, probably 20, 25. They might have 30, right? That's just college football now. If you don't play, like we were just talking, you look at the transfers that go into the portal. Either A, they're hunting for playing time. B, they're at a lower program, right? Like William & Mary or Ball State or something, and they're looking to advance up to a bigger university. C, more money, right? Money's always an object. They're always looking for money, playing time, money, moving up a spot there, or I don't even know what you would even call another one. Those are my three big ones right there. So these guys that are leaving, yes, some of them suck. Some of them do. But Mabry, I mean, you look at Mabry. You just brought in Billy Edwards Jr. He's most likely going to start next year. You have Carter Smith coming in behind him, who's most likely you're hoping is going to fill that void after Billy Edwards moves on there. So where's Mabry fit in, right? Seeing him leave, not the end of the world. Xavier Lucas, I don't feel like he was ever actually committed to the Badgers. He's a Miami guy. He's a Florida guy. Miami's always been in talks with him. They were in talks with him the first time, and then he decided to go to Wisconsin, and then it just seems like it was always where he was destined to be. So he ends up going back to, trying to go back to Miami. The Badgers still holding out on that one. You look around here at some of these other guys. I mean, Lafayette, that one stinks, but he's going to Michigan State now. That one stinks a little bit, but some of these guys, I mean, the cornerback room unloaded. Tyler Van Dyke, same thing. He wanted to see opportunity elsewhere. I mean, you look through it and it's like some of these guys hurt, but a lot of these guys were just role players. They weren't explosive. They weren't doing a lot for you. Leon Lowry, I mean, he's going to Illinois. He didn't contribute that much to your defense. Kurt Neal, I mean, sometimes he was a big producer there on the defensive line, but outside of that, didn't do much for you. I mean, if you keep your stars around Vinny Anthony and Trek Kikahuna's coming back, right? You got those two coming back. You got some guys coming back on the offensive line. You got some receivers coming in now. You retain your two, like I was just talking about, Dillian Jones and Dupree there. You keep those two around. You almost pick and choose guys, but at this point, money's going to talk more than, oh, you should stay here because you like playing in Madison, right? I mean, you listen to Larinaga, Miami's coach, men's basketball coach. He just resigned, just stepped down as the head coach of the basketball team. And they asked him, they're like, he said point blank in his, and we've talked about this before with Tony Bennett, Nick Saban. It's another one here. He said after their Final Four, which was, I believe he said like 18 months ago, he said after that Final Four game, after the game was done, he went into the locker room. 8 guys told him they were going to transfer. 8 guys. They just lost in the Final Four. 8 guys have said, now I want to leave, right? And he's like, well, why? You don't like Miami? Like, what's going on? They're like, no, we like Miami. So you're just leaving, right? This is the transfer portal. We all have to live with it now. This is how it is. We have to accept it. 25 is not, I don't think that's crazy. I don't. If that number gets to 30, I don't think that's crazy, right? You have your recruits coming in. You have how many transfers coming in right now? 16 transfers coming in. It's kind of constant free agency, right? It's constant free agency. You constantly have to replace guys that are coming in and moving out, right? That's just how it is. That's how it is now. And that's how it's going to be at Wisconsin, because you do not have the big name money to keep guys around, first off. Second off, you don't have contracts to keep guys around. There's no contracts. Unless if, we talk about the Xavier Lucas thing with an NIL contract, if you maybe have something like that hindering a guy from leaving. Outside of that, you don't have the stability to hold guys in place for more than a year, right? You could see guys jump around 4 times before they go off and go pro. So at this point, 25 transfers, I'm not shaking my head at that. Right? There's guys in there, like I said, that hurt a little bit more. You don't want to see them go. I get that, right? But I'm not sitting here saying, like, this is the end of the world. Let's start freaking out, right? We're not freaking out yet. Brainlock's gone, but we're not freaking out yet, right? We got Billy Edwards coming in. We'll be fine. Everything will be fine with the world.
I might celebrate if I'm in Wisconsin. I mean, if watching Brainlock, I'm like, good riddance. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. You know what I mean? But right. Yeah, I mean, looking, on 3 gives you kind of a good rundown of like the transfer portal and, just kind of the numbers as a whole. Like just a little bit off of what you like. I'm seeing 15 in or 24, or I'm sorry, 24 out and 15 in. So, right there. It's like great. Yep. But, if you look at, like, here's a couple teams I can tell you right off the bat that have more than Wisconsin. I mean, Louisville, yeah, they're bringing in 31. They're losing 33. Colorado, take a wild guess. How many you think? I mean, they're only losing 4 if you factor in the guys coming in versus the guys coming out. But the number's pretty astonishing, honestly.
That they have coming in or that they have leaving?
No, let's just go leaving just because
is it a low number?
No, it's higher than Wisconsin. That's the only hint I'll give you there. But
let's go with probably about 30, 32.
Add about 13 to that. 45 transfers out so far. Like some of these schools, I mean, you're seeing Texas right there with Wisconsin about 25. They only have 11 in. Indiana's losing 38, which that's a little surprising.
And that tells you a lot because you're talking about a team that just went to the college football playoff, and you have that many guys walking out the door.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, just a couple. I mean, Notre Dame only had 18 out, so I mean, I guess you consider that good. Miami 34 out, which that's a little surprising too. But like you said, this is like the nonstop shuffling of college football, and also playing time, yes, NIL money. Like there's so many factors to these guys now having the freedom to do what they want. Whether you think it's good or bad, that's kind of a different conversation. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't freak out either. And the thing is, like, in all due respect, Wisconsin didn't have a good season. So it's like some of these guys leaving, is that the worst? It's not like, this isn't a team that's knocking on the, they lost in the national championship and like 2 quarters of the team is leaving. That sucks, or half the team's leaving or whatever. But that obviously is a big blow. But I mean, Tyree Walker, like you said, he's not like setting the world on. He's good back, but he's not setting the world on fire. See who's behind him. Like, doesn't ruin your day, doesn't ruin your week. It isn't catastrophic to the trajectory of the program. Like, good for him, I guess. Hopefully it pans out. But maybe some of these guys you don't want to see again. Like, I mean, maybe they thrive somewhere else. We don't know. But is it the worst thing ever? Who knows? It'll shake out when you're through a couple weeks in the season, then you can reevaluate.
Yeah, no, I would completely agree. There. I mean, we'll see how it goes. We'll see. I mean, there's still more time at the transfer portal closes, I believe, tomorrow. I believe it's the 28th. It closes up there tomorrow. So we'll see who else throws their name in there by tomorrow. Then you have the spring period, but not as much movement then. This is the big time for it. But like I mean, it doesn't close down the transfer portal. Players have to have their name in by tomorrow, which makes the Xavier Lucas thing even more interesting because his name is technically not in the transfer portal as of today. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But good stuff. Good seeing John there. He says 55 coming in. I'm guessing he was talking about Colorado. I don't know what John's talking about. John, you got to clarify what you're talking about there. But good to see you in the comment section tonight. Thank you for joining us here. We were going to talk Badger basketball yet, but Dustin is here with us tonight. He's going to jump on with us, talk a little Vikings. So I want to get to Dustin quick here. We're going to talk Packers Vikings, just a little bit of Packers Vikings. We got more to talk about later in the show here, but I want to get some intake on what Dustin thinks about this Vikings team so far this year and leading into the playoffs. So we're going to get to him. We're going to talk about that, get to an ad break, come back, talk Badgers, and then we'll get to the Packers later on here again in the show. So let's get Dustin in here. We're going to have him jump on. I think I got him. There he is. Dustin is in. How are we doing tonight, Dustin?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing good. Doing good over here. Oh, we got kids joining us here. It's family-friendly show. It's family-friendly, so we always keep her family-friendly here on the show. Dustin, we got a big matchup coming up this weekend here. Big matchup, Packers, Vikings, a lot on the line. The NFC North is on the line. The 1 seed in the NFC is on the line in the playoffs. This is going to be a good one all the way around. So, I mean, Dustin, Vikings fan. I mean, Dustin writes for the Chicago. What do you write? Chicago
Cubs, Bulls, Bears, and Blackhawks. But I don't really follow the Bears much unless I have to write about them. So
that's fair. I wouldn't follow the Bears either. That would get exhausting after a while there. But Dustin, I mean, how are we feeling about this matchup? How are you feeling about this Vikings team taking on the Packers coming up this weekend? Both teams playing well up to this point here.
Yeah, I mean, coming into the season, I only had Minnesota winning about 5 or 6 games. So the fact that they're sitting at 13-2, when you looked at the first 8 games of the season, I figured they'd be lucky to be 1-7, 2-6. And then you kind of get through that first 7 games and they're sitting at 5-2. I'm like, okay, maybe this team has a shot. And then they got to their easy part of the schedule and they ripped off 5-6 wins. And I'm like, now we're in playoff positioning, and they just keep winning and winning and winning, kind of the way they did back in 2022 with all those 1-score games. And then we all know how that ended up in the wild card round. But there's just something different with this year's team, I think. I think a lot of it has to do with Sam Darnold. Because coming into the season, nobody believed in Darnold.
Yeah, we were haters on Darnold coming to this one, but he's made us eat our words up until this point. He's made us kind of settle down with him there. That was a big question we had for you. You know, we know Sam Darnold, he's played great up until this point here. You know, he'd probably be in the MVP conversation if it wasn't, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, all of them having fantastic years. Sam Darnold's putting up the numbers. Him and Goff are putting up fantastic numbers in the NFC North there. But, he's played great. Is that going to translate? The one thing we always talk about, we're like flaws with teams, right? And I look at the Vikings and I'm like, Sam Darnold hasn't proven it to me in the playoffs, right? And that's something that always hinders guys on picking this team is, can he do it in the playoffs? So have you seen it from Sam Darnold where you're like, I trust him in the playoffs where, because we're going to get into it, but I mean, do you trust Sam Darnold for a playoff run? Do you trust him that you could sign him up to a bigger contract moving into next year. What are you at with Sam Darnold right now?
Well, I honestly do trust him, even though he's never been in the playoffs before. And the main reason why I do is because he's already been arguably in several playoff type matchups the last few weeks. Last weekend in Seattle was a playoff game because Seattle was ultimately playing for their playoff lives because they had to win to keep themselves alive in the playoff hunt. Now, if the Rams win tomorrow, Seattle gets eliminated. So by winning that game against Seattle last week, he basically put Seattle on the brink of elimination, went into a hostile road environment, fell behind 24-20, comes back and leads a game-winning drive, which I believe is his 7th or 8th game-winning drive this year, which is another thing that not a lot of people talk about. Then you've had the games against the Lions. Yes, he lost to the Lions 31-29 earlier in the season, but he put up great numbers against the Lions earlier in the season. Put up great numbers in that first meeting against the Packers earlier in the season. Even when they lost to the Rams, he put up great numbers. So, like, the games that he's seen, like a playoff caliber team or a playoff caliber environment, he's lived up to the expectations. But getting into the playoffs and playing in the playoffs is completely different. But given what I've seen from him this year, I do trust him. And there is a reason why Minnesota is now kind of discussing trading J.J. McCarthy. Because right now it does seem like they are committed to Sam Darnold long term.
That was going to be my next question to you. So in your opinion, at this point, okay, let's just say I'm going to give you two hypotheticals. You tell me what you do. So if Sam Darnold, you're going to be a playoff team, but you drop that first game, wild card game, you drop it. Are you signing him long-term then? If he goes on this run in the playoffs and, gets you to an NFC championship game, maybe you lose, but he still plays well. Are you looking at, okay, bigger contract for Sam Darnold? We're okay with moving on from J.J. McCarthy because we like what we got now.
If he gets into the NFC championship game or the Super Bowl for that matter, you do not have a choice but to bring him back. The fact that he came in there with nobody believing in him, nobody believing he could do what he did this year, and then he gets you to that point, you do not have a choice but to bring him back. But let's just say they end up with the 5 seed instead of the 1 seed, and they end up losing in the wild card game because they go to Seattle or Los Angeles, who already beat them once. I would bring him back either on a franchise tag because the franchise tag is going to cost him less money than a long-term deal. Or I would even bring him back on like a 2-year deal worth close to $85 to $90 million. For the main reason is McCarthy's only 21. He's coming off of 1 knee surgery, a 2nd knee procedure later in the season. So who knows if he's even going to be 100% ready for training camp. And being that he's only 21 going on 22, you could sit him for 2 years. And then by the time he's ready, he's going to be 23 going on 24. So regardless of how Sam Darnold does in the playoffs, if I'm Minnesota, I bring him back for at least 2 years and kind of take the Green Bay Packer approach with what they do with their quarterbacks and sit them for 2 or 3 years before you hand them the keys to the franchise.
That was about what I was going to say that to you. You take the Packer route, right? That's what I think. That's what I think. Stop throwing these rookie quarterbacks out there and trying to get them killed first year. Sit them behind the guy, let them relax, let them learn the system, then we move them in. I completely agree. That's what I would do with J.J. McCarthy there and kind of let him work his way into it there. So I had one, you mentioned it earlier. The close games, right? You've had a lot of close games. I mean, we look the Bears game, 30-27. The Cardinals game was close there. The Cardinals kind of shot themselves in the foot in that one. The Bears, you played them a second time, kicked the crap out of them there. And then the Seattle Seahawks hang close. There was a couple closer ones up the top there. The Packers came back late in that one. And then we saw the 49ers game where they played that one close. That was a healthy 49ers team early on in the season there. Do the close games make you nervous? Because if it was me, I'm like, playoffs on the road. I don't want to be playing a close game on the road in the playoffs. I'd rather, get my points when I can. Do those close games worry you, especially if you do lose to the Packers? You're going on the road for a majority of the playoffs, if not the whole playoffs.
Yeah.
Does that make you nervous going into that kind of scenario?
It does and it doesn't. The reason why it doesn't is some of those close games are a little bit deceiving. Like the 49ers game, for example, they won 23-17. They were up 23-10 with 2 minutes left and basically let 49ers go right down the field, score a touchdown. So it made a 6-point game with like 20 seconds left. Same thing with the Packer game. They were up 14 points heading into the fourth quarter. Packers cut it to 6. Vikings went back up by 12. Packers cut it to 6. Minnesota kicked the field goal with just over 2 minutes left to go up by 9. You're up by 9 with 2 minutes left. The Packers need to score twice to win that game. So again, that kind of is a little bit deceiving on that stat line as well. The only game that really concerned me the most was that first Bears game. when they were up by 11 with 3 minutes left, and all of a sudden it's a tie game. You're going into overtime, and you needed that field goal to win. Outside of that, yes, the close games are a little worrisome because you would like your team to blow some teams out here and there, which Minnesota has. They blew out Atlanta 42-21. They absolutely dismantled Houston that third game of the year 34-7. But it's just the way that Minnesota plays. Like, yes, the games are close, but when you look kind of more into it, a lot of these games, they have like a 2-possession lead with around 4 or 5 minutes left, and the game gets a little bit closer just because they kind of play that prevent defense just to waste the clock.
Yeah. No, I would agree. We got John in the comments section over here. Wes Phillips has turned Darnold around. Vikings defense should carry them. I would give Darnold a franchise tag and keep him around for 2 years.
I can say it's not Wes Phillips that has turned him around. I can say that. It's Kevin O'Connell that has turned him around. Because Kevin O'Connell look what Kevin O'Connell did with Kirk Cousins the first year that Kevin O'Connell got to Minnesota. It was the best year that Kirk Cousins ever had, and he was in the MVP conversation pretty much the whole entire season. Then you look at last year, once Kirk Cousins went down, Josh Dobbs came in and started 3-0 under Kevin O'Connell and was playing the best that Josh Dobbs ever played.
Yep.
Yes, that Josh Dobbs mania kind of faded out, but then they went with Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins was averaging almost 400 yards passing the last 3 weeks of the season. Now you're bringing Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold's having the year he's having. This is Kevin O'Connell. This isn't Wes Phillips. Wes Phillips is the de facto offensive coordinator, but Kevin O'Connell's the play caller. So whatever he does with these quarterbacks, it's working.
Yeah, and that's what if you're sorry there, Aaron. I just got to say 1 second. And that's where if you're Sam Darnold, you don't want to leave Minnesota.
And that's the key too. Like, is he going to get more money than Minnesota has? I think the 5th or the 6th most money to spend next offseason. I think they're going to have like $70 million in cap space, which is like the 5th or the 6th highest amount. Sam Darnold, if he goes on the open market, is probably going to get 45-50 million easy, just because of the year that he put up. But if you're Sam Darnold, then you know that the system you're in now has worked for you, and the system you're in now has led you to the success that you're having. He probably would be willing to take a little bit of a discount. I'm not saying like a $15-20 million discount, but instead of giving him $45-50 million a year, I could see Minnesota doing 3 years at 120. Pay him $40 million a year. It's a slight discount, but he's still getting $40 million a year. That way you have your short-term solution in Darnold. You have your long-term solution in McCarthy if it's something that you still want to go with. And then you can bring back guys like Aaron Jones. You can re-sign Jordan Addison. You can re-sign all these other pieces with all that extra money you have left over.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I mean, Aaron, what'd you have there?
No, an interesting little tidbit there for Dustin's Vikings, which is surprising, honestly, but they've trailed a league low 22%, of their offensive snaps. So they really haven't trailed much this season.
Yep.
They might be playing quote unquote close games and down to the wire games in some aspects. But if you're not trailing, obviously they're at least having good starts. My team, I watch the Eagles, they don't score the first quarter. They don't play football till the second quarter. So the fact that you have that's a good sign.
Yep.
And Dustin, I got to be honest, I'm the biggest Sam Darnold doubter in the world, but he's made me eat my word. I mean, the Jets, you could probably put Tom Brady in his prime on the Jets and they'd ruin him. That I give him that kind of but then he went to Carolina
and he was actually what people forget too is he was 4-1 or 5-1 as a starter in Carolina before he injured his shoulder, and then Carolina won one game the rest of the year after he was out for the season. So he wasn't playing that bad in Carolina. And then last year when he had his opportunities in San Francisco, he started to show the signs of life last year under that Kyle Shanahan system. Now it's just magnified because the Kevin O'Connell system is that Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan system, just a different way to do things.
And with the weapons they have, it's a godsend for him. Anybody wants those type of weapons. So yeah. I mean, it's like you said. I mean, it's working out for him. If it came down to $2 to $3 million for him to go, whatever team's going to go after him, and it's not as good of a situation or even close. If I'm Darnold, at least he's had enough bumps along the road. He's had enough. Yeah. The Jets' whole tenure was a struggle for him. So I would definitely winning is fun, and he's not really used to it in the NFL. So yeah, ride it as long as you can there in Minnesota.
And if he looks at it from this perspective, let's just say the Vikings do bring back Aaron Jones on a 2-year deal because you probably get him for probably 2 years at around $16-17 million. If Darnold decides to come back, he's going to have Justin Jefferson for another 5 years. He's going to have Jordan Addison for another 3 years. He's going to have Hawkinson for another 3 years. You would have Aaron Jones back for another 2 years. Every single defensive free agent that they added last year, from Andrew Van Ginkel to Wes Grenard to all those guys, have 3 or 4 years left on their deals. So if Darnold decides to come back for 3 years, it's virtually the same exact roster that they have in place right now for the next 3 to 4 years, which basically means if you're going to make a Super Bowl, this is your Super Bowl run with this roster right now.
Yeah. No, I would agree. We do have Kyle. He said the dilemma, like we were talking, was McCarthy there, but the injury does allow the Vikings to sell, bringing Darnold back to see if it's a 1-year fluke. I agree. I mean, you can sign him up for a 1-year deal and just say, hey, prove it to me again, and then we'll see what you do, right? But yeah, best thing for him, he's got to make that best career choice decision and stay there with the Vikings, because who knows if this could translate elsewhere, and I wouldn't want to find out. I really wouldn't want to find out if I was him. So,
and the Vikings have found this out with Case Keenum back in 2017 when Case Keenum took over for Sam Bradford. He had his career year, left Minnesota, never really started after that. And Kirk Cousins, prime example. Kirk Cousins gets hurt, wants to go to Atlanta for the money, and he's probably going to be out of Atlanta after just one season. Darnold can kind of take those historical matters and be like, yes, these guys had good years in Minnesota, but once they left, they didn't do so well. So maybe it is beneficial for me to stay here.
Kirk Moneybags' cousin. He just fleeces everybody. That's what he does there. So, Dustin, I mean, looking at this matchup here, Packers-Vikings, let's get back to that a little bit here. What do you think the Vikings have to do in this game to beat the Packers? From your perspective, what do they got to do right? What has to happen in this one for the Vikings to win this one? Because you got, I mean, two great teams actually squaring off here in Minnesota there.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, they kind of got to pretty much do the same thing that they've been doing. Yeah, on defense, they can do I don't like the bend not break defense. It annoys the hell out of me. But the bend don't break defense has been working for them, where they don't care if they give up yards between the 30s. Once that other team gets to the 30s, the yards become hard to get, and they can kind of settle for the field goals as opposed to touchdowns. Which, if that's how they're going to play, it is what it is. But one thing they do got to do is they got to get pressure on Jordan Love. You have a Minnesota pass rush who's ranked, I think, 3rd or 4th in the NFL in total sacks, and Jordan Love has only taken 16 sacks this season, which is the second fewest in the NFL. Granted, 4 of them came from Minnesota in their first matchup, so, I mean, 25% of those sacks were from Minnesota in that first matchup, but they also pressured him a lot in that game, which is what kind of forced some of those interceptions. It was his first game back, but a lot of those interceptions that he threw came on pressure situations where he made some bad throws. That's what Minnesota really has to do. They have to get that pressure early to kind of get in Jordan Love's head, because we've seen it now in his 2 years as a starter. If you can rattle Jordan Love early in the game, he's more prone to make mistakes early on to kind of put his team behind the sticks where they got to play catch-up right away.
Yep. No, I would agree. That's one of the biggest keys I had was protecting Jordan Love. On the flip side of that, you got to stop this pass rush from the Vikings. And it's going to be a heck of a test for this Vikings pass rush in this one, because that offensive line for Green Bay has been nothing but impressive, especially in the past blocking game there. So looking at this Vikings team, one last thing before we get to our ad break there, and Dustin's got to go on us. Looking at this Vikings team, I mentioned the flaw that we thought about was Darnold heading into the playoffs. What is a couple flaws that you got with this Vikings team that is going to hurt them in this game here, or could hurt them in the playoffs moving forward? What would be that flaw or flaws that you have right now?
I got 2 of them that come to mind. The first flaw is the left tackle position. When the Vikings had Christian Darrisaw playing left tackle, who's arguably one of the top 2 left tackles in the game, Sam Darnold was barely getting touched from the left side of the line because Christian Darrisaw is so good. Since Darrisaw's gone down with his torn ACL, 75% of the sacks that Sam Darnold has taken has come from the left tackle position, because Cam Robinson is not nearly as quick and as athletic as Darrisaw is. When Cam Robinson got hurt for a couple of games, they had to move a guard to the tackle position who's never played tackle before, and it was kind of like an open turnstile. So that is one area they do need to address, because that's his blind side. And if you're going to get your quarterback killed, getting him killed on the blind side is exactly how you do it. And then the other area of concern I have is just they are a very good starting team. They have one of the best, the quickest teams when it comes to scoring points early, and they have, I think, the second highest scoring differential in the first half. So they are a very good, quick start team. It's how they start the second half that concerns me. It's whatever they do in the first half, they kind of get away from it in the third quarter, get a little stagnant on offense, kind of let teams back into the game a little bit in the third quarter, and then you get to the fourth quarter, and then they start picking things up again. They got to get away from that kind of 25-minute stretch where it's just going through the emotions, going through the stagnant offense, and just play a complete 60-minute game, which, as weird as it sounds, the only time that I think this team has ever played a full 60 minutes was that game against Houston when they won 34-7. outside of that, I don't think they played another complete 60-minute football game yet.
Okay. Aaron, you got anything else?
Yeah, just kind of, a lot of what Dustin alluded to with the quick starts. That's what you want to see. Obviously, I think you get your playmakers. I mean, this is kind of cliche, but like obviously Addison, Justin Jefferson, like get them touches early, get Sam Darnold in a rhythm early. Cause I mean, we've talked about, endless times on Wisconsin Sports on the Go, how, the Packers can just kind of divvy the ball up, here's Tucker Kraft and here's the running game and like the collection of receivers they have. So if you're Minnesota, like you look to get in the rhythm early, just in case, like, Green Bay comes out, and just executes early as well. Like you don't, no matter what, you don't want to play from behind, but if you can come out and kind of make a statement in a division game, I mean, this game is kind of for, there's huge stakes on the line between these two teams. It's the divisional game. They kind of know each other's tendencies. So like Dustin said, I mean, Minnesota, the fact that they haven't they've trailed the least amount of times or the least amount of time per game in the league. That's something you want to continue because, you don't want to see your team get down in a game like this. Like this is one of those games where Green Bay is going to try and punch you in the mouth. Minnesota is going to try and punch you in the mouth. So it's, like Dustin said, and especially out of the second or the out of the half in the second half there, you want to just continue where you left off or obviously pick it up. Like that first drive in a third quarter, sometimes that's kind of a tone setter. Like if you're, struggling, you're down, like let's say set a touchdown, 10 points, you come out and go 3 and out. That other team is like, okay, we got you exactly where you want. So this game's going to be definitely interesting. I mean, this is one you circle on the calendar. And especially where these two teams are at right now, this is like for all the marbles basically.
And the last thing I got for you too, and I kind of mentioned this to Trey off the air before. A lot of people kind of have the belief that the NFL is fixed based on kind of how some of the games have gone in Kansas City's favor, some of these games have gone in other teams' favor. This is one of those games where if you believe the NFL is fixed, the outcome could come a certain way. As in, everyone knows what would be at stake if Detroit wins this weekend against San Francisco, which they should, and if Minnesota wins this weekend against Green Bay. Everyone knows what would be at stake in Week 18. It would be not only for the division, but it would be for home field in the playoffs. So next Sunday night would be Detroit versus Minnesota on Sunday Night Football for basically home field in the NFC. If Minnesota loses, that potentially kills that Sunday night game, and what other option do you have to throw on Sunday night?
Yeah.
If you believe the NFL is fixed, this could be one of those situations where the NFL makes sure that Minnesota wins because of ratings, and so they can get that matchup that they want next Sunday night in Week 18.
Yeah. No, I would agree. There. We're going to find out this weekend if the NFL is fixed. We're going to find out there. So, Dustin, I know you're at the batting cage. We can hear it in the background there. One last thing. What is your prediction? Give us your score prediction for this game coming up.
I'm actually going with Green Bay 27-24.
Oh,
just mainly because when was the last time
reverse psychology?
When was the last time the Green Bay swept Minnesota, and when was the last time Minnesota swept Green Bay?
It must have been 2019, I think.
It doesn't matter how
it's been split.
It doesn't matter how good or how bad these teams are. It seems like whoever wins the first meeting, the other team wins the second meeting. One team could be in first place, one team could be in last place, but they always split. And because of that reason, I'm going to just kind of go off of that trend and just go Packers 27-24.
I like it. He's playing the odds there. I like the odds. So, Dustin, thank you for jumping on with us tonight here. Where do they find you? Where do they find your stuff there across Chicago sports and everything?
Yeah, they can find me on chicagosportshq.com. Like I said, I cover Cubs, Bears, Bulls, and some Blackhawks. I do all the game recaps for all their games. I do like free agent signings for the Cubs and Bears and Bulls. Once we get like kind of coaching firings and things like that, I just kind of cover everything, and it just goes up on the website, and you can find it for free.
Awesome stuff there. We'll have them back here when it gets closer to baseball season. We'll talk a little Cubs. We'll talk a little bit of everything else there. So, Dustin, thank you for hopping on with us tonight here. We're going to get to an ad break now. We'll come back. We'll talk a little Badger basketball. We'll get into the Packers a little bit more, and then we'll wrap it up for the days. So, thank you, Dustin. We'll catch you guys back here on the other side.
This show is brought to you by these fantastic sponsors. Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in to see the awesome crew at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville. Next, we have Sport and Spine Clinic of Greenwood. Have you been injured recently, whether it was at work, shoveling snow, or mowing the lawn? Stop in and see Chad at Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood. He will get you right, get you back to work, back to shoveling snow, back to mowing the lawn, doing whatever you were doing, feeling better than ever. And then we have Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Do you have a sports club or team? Are you looking for some sweet custom uniforms or apparel? Check out the awesome crew at Game Day Supply in Onalaska to help your team get the sweetest gear.
Great stuff there from Dustin on the other side. We had a lot of comments coming in from Kyle there during that. Flores versus Toyotathon, Jordan Love. You can't, I mean, I saw a couple of Toyotathon commercials. They should just have him in the commercial at this point. Like, I am utterly surprised Toyota hasn't called Jordan Love and been like, hey, you should come down. The commercial will be epic. Like, you come down and be in this commercial for it. It'll be great. Like, I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it at this point here. So great stuff there from Dustin about the Vikings. We're going to get into the Packers Vikings in a little bit here. I want to talk a little Badger basketball because I wrote this the other day. We didn't get into it the other night there. I want to get into it tonight here on the show. So Badgers, they're on this little break right now. January 3rd is their next game against Iowa. But, I mean, they're 12 games in, right? You get your little 12-game preview. We want to talk about them, see what we've liked, see what we haven't liked so far with this team. So I took down a little bit of notes there. Jack Janicki, I want to start with him. Off that bench. He's earned the role, right? He's earned the role that he's gotten, a continuous role and an increased role at times in this Badger rotation so far. I mean, he's got tenacity on the defensive end, makes the right plays, right? That's the biggest thing. Makes the right plays when he's out there. He doesn't make those silly mistakes that you see from a guy who's playing out of control, not comfortable within the offense, not comfortable out there on the court. You don't see those silly mistakes. So he makes those right plays. And he keeps the ball moving quick. And that's a big thing, too, that we've talked about with the Badgers is they can't get stagnant, right, with their offense. They have to keep that puppy moving. Jack Janicki keeps that baby moving when he's out there in the court. So just wanted to start with him there. Just mention a little tidbit. I loved what I've seen out of him so far there. I mean, he's 2 points a game. You're like, what's this guy talking about? He's not averaging much for points a game and everything like that. He does those little things, right? You think of the Bucks with Ajax, right? And Ajax, he does those little things for you on the court defensively, gets after guys offensively, gets the boards, does the little things, keeps the ball moving, hums that thing around, sets up playmakers. All those little things that we don't think about, they don't show up in the stat sheet or anything like that. That's what Jack Janicki does for this team. So I love what I've seen out of him so far. I did see a quote. It came in from Greg Gard about John Tonje. And this was after that game against Detroit Mercy. And he said, need him to continue to be more efficient. If this team's going to really reach a high level, we have to have him at a high level more consistently. So basically calling him out, right? He did this with Stephen Crowell. We saw it that day with Stephen Crowell after what game did he have no rebounds? Was it Illinois? I believe it was Illinois game. He had no rebounds in that one. And we heard Greg Gard call him out after that game. And he's like, Illinois, no rebounds against Illinois. And we heard Greg Gard call him out. We're like, he's like, our 7-footer's got no rebounds. Like, he's got to play better. He's got to play more aggressive. He's got to do this. He's got to do that. I think this is deserved. John Tonje, at times, it seems like he kind of goes away. And I want my head coach, whether it pisses the player off or not, and I hope it does. I want him to have the cojones to go up. I want him to tell John Tonje to his face. I don't want him to just say it to the microphones, but I want him to say it to his face. I want him to tell him, like, hey, dude, you're the star of this basketball team. You got to be more consistent. You have to be at this high level. And at nights where you're not at that high level, you have to help other guys get to that high level. I know you're going to have off nights. I'm not expecting you not to have off nights, but that's not going to hinder you from driving to the basket, getting to the rim, getting fouled. You look at him, he averaged 23 points a game last month. So in the month of November, he was averaging 23 points a game. In the month of December, and I know it's a smaller sample size, right? But he was averaging 13 points a game. That's a 10-point swing That's 10-point swing right there. That's your star player. We know what he's capable of. We know what John Tonje can do when he's going. But the question is, will he play at that consistent level? If he goes away in a game, you're going to struggle. You have to have him as he has to still be a threat, right? Throughout a game. Whether he's on, whether he's off, he's still got to be a threat off the dribble. He's still got to be a threat to shoot. He's still got to be that consistent threat that we know that he is. And if he goes away from that, if he starts to play a little stagnant, it's like, it's the Big's turn, right? It's Stephen Crowell's turn. It's Nolan Winter's turn. No. You can't do that. This offense, what we complained about the other day and what holds true is if this team can put it all together on a consistent basis, that means Blackwell's getting it going and John Tonje is still involved and Max Klesman's shooting well and Nolan Winter, Stephen Crowell, they're all involved within the offense in some way, shape, or form. If you can get it all going, that's a deadly team. That's a great team. John Tanji, John Blackwell, those are 2 stars. Nolan Winter, Steven Crowell. You got big guys who are contributing. Max Klesman, he's got the ability to ring it up from downtown. We know he can hit big shots. He hasn't been able to do it this year, but we know he can hit big shots. You have guys coming off the bench too, and McGee, Gilmore, other guys who can contribute in their own way. You got to have consistent contributors from this team. And that starts with the stars and it works its way down. You want nights where your role players are doing it. Heck yeah. I want nights where Nolan Winter's giving me 20. I want nights where Steven Crowell's giving me 16 to 20. But guess what? They ain't going to be able to do that on a consistent basis. It's got to be the stars. It's got to be Tanjay. It's got to be Blackwell. The stars of your team stepping up in big moments to take over. And at this point, I couldn't tell you who's the big moment guy. I can't tell you who's my late game closer. Who's going to be the guy I want the basketball in his hands late in a game to make a play? I think it's John Tanjay. I think it's Blackwell. But at times, those two, they like to go away. They like to go away from that. Consistent getting to the rim and taking care of business. You look at this team, I mean, their offensive stats, they started out fast this year. 81 points a game, number 11 in adjusted offensive efficiency. 43.5% of their points came from attacking the rim. That's what I'm looking at. 43.5% of their points came from attacking that rim. So what happens when Tanjay just says, I'm not getting there, so I'm just going to stop, right? I'm going to stop trying to attack it. John Blackwell, you're going to have games like Illinois. You're going to have games like that. Those are the things that the Badgers, they need to fix. They have this long break. They need to fix those. Tanjay needs to get his role within the offense, and he knows his role. He's just got to he's got to fulfill that role night in, night out, which is being that playmaker that we know that he is. I'm not asking him to drop me 30 points a night. No, I'm not asking that at all. That's not what you can expect out of a guy. But what I can expect is that he's going to be a consistent threat to attack the rim. Same with John Blackwell. They might be off from the perimeter, but guess what? They can get to the rim and still get fouled and make shots from the free throw line, which are huge in games because you look at the Badgers, they've been fantastic from the free throw line. But in those games where, I mean, you look at the Marquette game, you look at other games out there, those are the games where you look at John Tanjay, you're like, dude, you're not getting there. You're not even attacking. You're not even looking to attack. Those are my problems right now. So I'm looking at John Tanjay and I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree with Guard. You need him to play at a high level if you want to get to that point that you want to get to, reach that high level, whether it's the Big Ten regular season title, whether it's a Big Ten championship, whether it's getting into the tournament and going on a deep run. John Tanjay has got to be that leader of that. You have to have that guy, right? You have a lot of pieces. But at the end of the day, you have to have that guy, right? And John Tanjay is that guy. Blackwell, I think, is that guy too. I think that is what the Badgers have is 2-star guards who can score it. They're very good scorers. They might not be your traditional point guard. Like John Blackwell is not your traditional point guard, but he's a guy who can get downhill and get to the rim and get his own. And that's what you need, but you can't have those guys go away from that. So that's where I'm kind of looking with them. I don't disagree with what Greg Gard had to say there a little bit. Defensively, that's the problem with this team. Defensively, you look at the BPI rankings. I was just checking that out earlier. And according to the BPI, the Badgers, I believe were ranked in like 8. They were at 8.4 in BPI, which isn't great. Offensively, they were sitting at 8.4. Defensively, they were at like 4. You know, and that's the odds of putting teams on a neutral floor with an average team, what the score differential is going to be in there. And the Badgers have struggled defensively. So you look at that, you look at the KenPom ranking, they're 89th in defensive efficiency on the season so far in KenPom. You're not going to go far in the tournament doing that, right? Being that inefficient on the defensive end. Keeping opponents out of the paint is the big one, right? We see so many times guys getting downhill, getting by Blackwell, getting by Tanjay. It's a struggle, right? But that's something that needs to be fixed. Stopping that penetration, and that's huge. That's huge. You don't hear about that a lot with Wisconsin because you're like, usually they're a pretty tight-knit defensive group. Right now, that's where they're struggling is defensively, keeping opponents out of that paint area. The pick and roll has hurt them big time. I know the Michigan game's the one that stands out the most. Because you think back to that game, it was Golden and Danny Wolf just going ham on you in the pick and roll game. Those are 2 7-footers. But the pick and roll game is hurt. Rim protection is a problem. We know this. Steven Crowell is not a good rim protector. I don't know why. I don't know why he doesn't have somewhat of a tenacity there. He's averaging a half a block a game. Like, he doesn't block many guys. I mean, you talk about it. Jack Janicki, I believe, is averaging 0.4 blocks per game. He's a guard. He's a guard averaging of just about as many blocks as your big man is. So rim protection is a problem for the Badgers. And that's what leads to our bigger issue, right? Letting guys get by you, penetration, getting into that paint area. You have zero rim protection. Guess what's going to happen? Most likely, they're going to score. When Steven Krall steps up, most likely, he's going to get called for a foul. So that's where the guards have to step up, be better on the defensive end, and get some stops. So that's where I'm looking with those guys there. Krall and Winter, they're not rim protectors. They're not rim protectors at all. That's where, if I was Greg Gard in the transfer portal, that's where I would have been looking, was rim protection. I'd be looking for a big guy. Maybe he's not much of a scorer, but he's a rim protector like Chris Voigt was with the Badgers there. Just somebody to stand in there and just be able to swat a ball away a couple times, right? Deter guys from coming into that painted area. The Badgers don't have that. They don't. And that it hurts. It hurts there. So that's where I'm looking right now defensively. No shot blockers. You got to stop that thing from the outside. McGee and Gilmore, they've been solid off the bench. They have been. Amos struggles a little bit there. He doesn't look into it, right? And we talked about Amos a lot. We've had questions about Amos, if he's, why he's not getting a bigger role, if he should have less of a role than what he has. I think his role is about where I'd have him right now. He just looks lost. You put him out there. Defensively, looks lost out there. Offensively, jacks up a lot of threes. If he's on, he's on. If he's off, he's a liability because you don't have him on the defensive end. So all in all, I'm looking at Amos. I'm like, I just don't see it with you. McGee, Gilmore, they've been solid, though. McGee and Gilmore have been solid. McGee's been great defensively, so has Gilmore. Gilmore's actually been just as good in the shot blocking department, just as good at rim protection as what your 7-footers have. So I've liked what I've seen out of them. And Janicki. I mean, I mentioned him earlier there, but defensively, he's been great for this team so far. They have to step up defensively to have a shot in the Big Ten. They have to. They have to step up defensively to have a shot in the Big Ten. Right now, you look at this team, you look at what they have coming forward in front of them. UCLA is great offensively. Maryland can put up points. Nebraska can put up points. Penn State can put up points. Purdue can put up points. Illinois, we saw them. We know they can put up points. You cannot go through a Big Ten schedule and allow teams to drop 80-plus points on you and expect to have a winning record or expect to be not a tournament team, but expect to be at the top of the Big Ten when it's all said and done. Because your offense will go cold. You're going to have nights where, especially on the road, you're not going to be able to shoot like that. So you got to find ways to get stops defensively, get key stops, because in this Big Ten schedule, the way the Big Ten works on the road, it's hard to shoot sometimes. It's hard to travel like that. Defensively, the Badgers have definitely got to step up there. Offensively, I'm confident in this team. I am. Offensively, from what I've seen, John Tonje, if he steps up, continues what he's been able to do. John Blackwell's been good. Nolan Winter's been fantastic over the last month. And then Steven Krall, if he progresses from, I shouldn't say progresses because he's a senior now. He should be at his peak, but he's not even close. It's like he regressed. If Steven Krall can take a step forward, Max Klesmit Klesmit's the guy, right? He's my hit or miss guy right now. He needs to find that happy medium and find some kind of consistency out there. Same with Xavier Amos. The offense I'm not as concerned about. And like I said before, it's the defense. This defense for the Badgers has struggled this year. That's where I'm looking, and that's where I'm worried about this team moving forward. So we'll see kind of what happens. They have, like I said, Iowa coming up here. I believe it's January 3rd. Is going to be that matchup there against Iowa. That's going to be at home at the Kohl Center before the Big Ten schedule really ramps up. I mean, you got that game on the 3rd, then the 6th, and the 10th. The Big Ten schedule ramps up, and you get into a full swing of basketball about 2-3 games a week. You're swinging at, and it's going to be over before it even starts, right? That's how it feels sometimes. Is once you get into the Big Ten schedule, it's 2 or 3 games a week, and it's just like boom. Your Big Ten tournament, and it's like, boom, March Madness is here, and then it's done and over with, and you're like, what the heck happened? Like, we were just at Detroit Mercy, and now we're playing UCLA on January 21st. Like, it's just odd. It's crazy how fast it goes, but, I mean, this is a good Big Ten. This is a good Big Ten, and I know maybe they got to prove it when it comes to March, right? But I know looking at this schedule, there's going to be a lot of tough games, and I would not be surprised. I honestly probably wouldn't be surprised if we looked back on the standings at the end of the year and we were looking at I was trying to think like what would be a crazy Big Ten of like a finish there. I mean, 5 losses in the Big Ten, maybe at the top. like 5-6 losses, maybe sitting near the top, if not top of the Big Ten. Like that's kind of where I'm at with this schedule. Like there's a lot of good teams. UCLA is good this year. Purdue's still solid. We know Illinois is good. Michigan's been playing well. Nebraska can sneak out some wins. Northwestern, Indiana's been playing better. Iowa's got a good team. Michigan State's always there. Tom Izzo always has them ready to go. Ohio State's got a good team put together there. Penn State's been playing solid. Maryland, Rutgers. I mean, USC, I don't know about USC, Washington. Oregon's been good, right? So there is a lot of good teams in the Big Ten. And I think it's going to be a heck of a schedule that the Badgers have coming up here. So we'll wait and see. We got Iowa coming up next week. We'll talk about that game next week there. We'll get ready for that game against Iowa there. But Aaron, I want to talk a little bit of Bucks quick. A little bit of Bucks. Just mentioned this game last night. I was appalled by this game. I was just appalled. The Bucks, they stunk it up. They were leading in this game big time. They had the lead. It looked like it was trending towards the Bucks going to be able to walk away with this one. Their largest lead was 13, and they just fell apart. I mean, you talk about it, 20 some turnovers. I was just looking there, 23 turnovers for the Bucks in this game, 23 turnovers. You want to know how to kill yourself? 23 turnovers, and just stupid turnovers by the Bucks in this one. They shot 39% from three, not terrible. 49% from the field, not a bad night shooting the basketball at all. I mean, not great, but 15 for 38 from downtown. Like you'll take that any night of the week. But this Bucks team, I mean, no Giannis, no Damian Lillard in this one. Middleton kind of just running the show. I love when he's been back, I love seeing him out there. I do, because Middleton is like dad's back, and and like you watch him on like out of bounds plays or anything like that. He's telling guys where to go. Like he's like, you go there, you go there, you go there. Like he's telling guys where to go. And it's just like that relief that you have. It's like a Doc Rivers being out on the basketball court where he's able to tell guys like, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to be, and you love to have a guy like that. You love to have a guy that can coach your guys up on the floor. So I love having that stability of Middleton back there. But last night he had 21 points there. I believe he played 26 minutes. So he's getting his minutes up a little bit there. You love to see that. Played solid all the way around. Brook Lopez had a good night too. He had 20 points. He was hot in the first half there from downtown. He's splashing just a little bit of everything. Bobby had a good night. Andre Jackson Jr. was solid. He had a fantastic putback dunk there early on. Ryan Rollins. I like what Ryan Rollins brings to this team. I mean, he's not when Dame's out there, he's a role player then, but now starting in the lineup because Dame was out. I love what Ryan Rollins brings to this team, so can't knock on him any way, shape, or form. Torian Prince, some nights it's like he hits 3 in a row, and then all of a sudden he just hits the barn wall, and it's just like I don't even know what I'm watching anymore. Torian Prince, he went 3 for 9 in this game, 3 for 6 from 3, had 9 points, but he's so hit or miss at times for me. AJ Green, the Dairy Bird, didn't have the greatest shooting night in this one, but 2 for 7. Yeah, it was one of those nights for the Bucks. It was one of those nights. They've skated by a couple games without Dame and Giannis. This one, the Nets, they were able to catch them, able to take care of them. They just didn't have that guy late, right? They didn't have that option of Giannis or Dame late in this one. Middleton was trying to do his darndest out there, but when you have those two, it just, where the ball's going. You know what's going to happen. You know how it's going to happen. You just get to watch. Now it's like you have Middleton, but you have a lot of, I don't want to say scrubs, but, role player guys who are kind of just flying around to see what happens, right? So Bucks, this one, drop it 111 to 105. Kind of ruined my night, but that's okay. That's okay on that one. So, Aaron, let's get to our last ad break, and then we'll get back to the Packers a little bit here. We'll get our NFL picks for the weekend, and then we will get out of here. So let's get to our ad break. We'll see you guys on the other side of it there.
This show is brought to you by these fantastic sponsors. Marshfield Motor Speedway, located 3 miles outside of Marshfield on County Road H. Tons of family fun for all ages. Great food, great drinks, great racing. I cannot think of a better way to spend a summer day or night than down at the track. Next is Sports Scene in Marshfield, Wisconsin, located at the Marshfield Mall. Get down there and see Al. He has everything you need, from sports cards, memorabilia, jerseys, model stock cars. He's got it all. Sports Scene in Marshfield. And then we have Peggy Sue Beslick, Century 21. Do you want to find your dream home or maybe looking to sell your current property? Let Peggy Sue Beslick at Century 21 help you with all of your housing or property needs.
Great stuff there. Let's get back to the Packers. Let's talk a little Packers here because, well, they're looking to own Minnesota in Minnesota in this one. I heard there's a lot of fans traveling over there. I think 71% of the tickets or something like that went to Packer fans for that game. That's wild. That's wild. Packer fans, they travel well, though. They travel well. They always do. They said in Seattle, the Packers, it felt like a home game, they said. I mean, you could hear the Go Pack Go chants in the crowd. It was fantastic. So, Aaron, I mean, this isn't exactly about this matchup, but it kind of is. Matt LaFleur says, and we're expecting this, he said he probably not, I'd say probably not when asked if Jair will play this week. I mean, he's practicing. He's a full participant in practice. What in the actual F is going on? Like, what is going, like, that's what I want to know. Is he not 100%? Is like, I just don't get it at this point. He's been back to full participant for multiple weeks now. Multiple weeks. We've seen Jair at practice. He's been practicing. Full practice. Tells us full practice every day. This week, he had a full practice on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, did not practice on Friday, and he's out for the game. It's now listed as game status. He's out. I don't get it. I don't. I truthfully want to know, like, is he not 100%? Is that why we're holding him out? Like, what is the reason? I want to know the reason. Are we holding him out because we don't want to get him hurt before playoffs? What is our thought process? Because that's something nobody has been able to answer. He's practicing full time. He's full participant, right? And unless if they're listing that just to pull our chain, I don't know. I have no idea. So, Aaron, I mean, you're seeing this with Jair. You're like, I mean, you ask Vikings fans and they're like, oh, yeah, he just doesn't want to face Justin Jefferson. It's like, no, this has been multiple weeks. He wasn't preparing for this day. This has been multiple weeks. So is there something they're not telling us with this injury that it's worse than what we thought? This PCL, is it worse than what we thought? If it was, why was he not put on the injured reserve? Just doesn't make sense why we're sitting here and we're saying to ourselves, why is Jair Alexander listed as full participant multiple times in a week and out on Sunday?
I mean, I tend to think it's a playoff thing. Like, it's we're going to get him practice reps. We're going to make it look like he's going to play. And then later in the week, we're going to kind of turn him down again, you know. And I'm sure there's I mean, I would hope there's an understanding between, you know, we were talking about, you know, the Badgers with the transfer and, you know, the player versus the university, that type of thing. Hopefully there's a open communication between Jair and the Packers. It's not like, hey, I want to play. We're going to practice you 2 days or 3 days a week. I'm pretty sure he'd be like, I want out of here. You know, like if there's that much, you know, disagreement upon him playing or him not playing or him practicing and not playing, like that would bleed into like, hey, this is just, I'm getting jerked around. Right. Like, so I think it's probably an understanding between player and organization. And to me, just in my gut feeling, my prediction there is just they're saving him for the playoffs. Like they're getting him practice reps because you don't want a guy like, you know, there's other guys in the league, right, with injuries and like teams don't like they use them, but they don't use them. They use them, but they don't. Like you kind of see that, you know. And I think if they're smart, maybe they play him like next week, half. Maybe you don't want to bring. Maybe he still is banged up for sure. Like. But I think part of it's just like, you know, you've alluded to how fragile he seems to be when he gets on the field. They know that. Like these organizations will like point out they could have the perfect player, but if he has, you know, a bad knee, they'll know that. Like these organizations spend hours upon hours upon hours, you know, studying these guys and understanding, okay, if we bring this guy in, he's got this deficiency. So they know that he's more prone to injury than most. So I think they're preparing for him, you know, for the playoffs. If he gets banged up in the playoffs, it's like, okay, well, we put him in, you know, situations where we most needed him. You know, we most wanted him out there in a playoff, in a do or die game. If he's going to get injured, he's going to get injured. Like if you bring him back now and he gets injured again, it's like, wow, we kind of shot our load there. So I would think that it's just more so injury based. Like maybe he's not great anyway, but like a couple days a week, he can give it a go. Maybe they ramp him up to more like later in the weekdays next week or week after. But it's, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I just think he's probably not good enough to go, you know, for a full week of practice, but he can here and there. And they're just kind of hoping and praying, crossing their fingers, like, hey, if we get in the playoffs and he can, and barring he doesn't get any worse, we're going to throw him out there and see what happens at that point. I mean, they're winning games without him. So it's like, I get it I get, there's a lot of angles to it.
Yeah. But. Yeah. No. And it makes you wonder if bringing him back changes anything, right? The defense has adjusted without him. And now you bring him back and you have to adjust again, right? So that's where it's like, I get the saving for the playoffs, right? And he's a great player. When he's out there, he's fantastic. Like, he's nothing but fantastic. He's the best cover corner you got. But when I look at it from the wider spectrum, I'm like, okay, you bring him back. Does that actually hurt you? Does that hurt your scheming? Does that change what you're doing? You can talk about both sides, right? You can go more man if you have Justin Jefferson, or not Justin Jefferson. You can go more man if you have Jair Alexander, because he can man up on a guy. He's probably the only guy that you have that can go man to man. I mean, we're expecting against the Vikings there's going to be a lot of zone, because you have nobody that can go man to man with Justin Jefferson. You have nobody who can go man to man with Jordan Addison. You have nobody that can go man to man with those guys. So then you're like, okay, we got to go zone. Well, if he's back, now you can go man to man. So I can see where bringing him back would be huge. And I think it would be. He's a star player when he's out there. Now, am I bringing him back next year? There's an out. Yes, it's going to come with a cap hit, but there's an out. And I'll be honest with you, he's hurt more than he's out there. And at some point, you just got to bite it and just move on. And not because I don't like Jair Alexander, not because, he's a bad player. He's a great player when he's out there, but his availability. If you don't have him, what the heck's the point on paying him the money, right? The little extra change. Because, yeah, your cap hit's going to be something, but the payroll is going to, his cap hit to the payroll is going to be more if you keep him. So cutting him will save you. I believe cutting him, I was listening to Bill Michaels, or I can't remember what he said. I think cutting him was like $6 million that you save, $5-6 million or something like that you save on the cap. $5-6 million. You might need to spend money elsewhere. That might help. So does cutting him hurt you? Yeah, but you focus in the draft, or maybe you use that $5-6 million. You go find yourself a corner, right? You go find yourself somebody out there. Now, I know you're not going to spend $5-6 million to find a good corner, so you're going to have to find some other change in there. But they're going to have salary cap room to go out and grab somebody else. They're going to have more than $5-6 million. That's just going to add on to what you're going to be able to add into there. So, I mean, yeah, I would consider it. I really would consider moving on from him after the season's done, because you just don't know. You don't know about the health.
And yeah, to your point there, Trajan, I mean, there's a guy in the Eagles, Avonte Maddox. It's every year. It's every year. Okay, he's out 4 games. All right, he's out 6 games. All right, now it's like, if he's not available for you, and like they've, he isn't to the level of Jair Alexander, but they'll bring him back on 1-year deals and stuff. And it's like a team-friendly deal. But like, to draw a reference to that is, I mean, if you're paying a guy, like the way I look at it is, he's not going to become less injury prone. Like, there's just certain guys that, that what you're getting. Like, it's damaged goods. He's going to miss, like Giancarlo Stanton on the Yankees, right? He's going to miss 40 games a year guaranteed. Like, you can book it. And I think, like you said, I think they can go a better route. Like, if he's great on the field when he's there, that's great. But if you don't have him at all, and then you're expected to pay him, maybe not top dollar, but you're not going to get him on the cheap. So yeah, I just don't think it's worth it either. And like I said, these guys, he'll be a year older. I need to see a guy that becomes less injury prone over his career. Like, if certain guys are injury prone, it just seems like they're destined to be injury prone, unfortunately, but it's the name of the game most of the time. If you're one of those guys, you're stuck being injury prone most of the time.
I would agree. And I just looked up his salary there. I just looked up his contract things, and they do have a potential out. It is this next year. It is 2025 is the potential out. And it would be, so next year, if they don't take the out, they would owe him the cap hit would be $25 million. Just about $26 million is the cap hit for Jair. If you do take the out, the dead cap hit is $19 million for 2025. So that's your $6 million difference between the two. Then in 2026, the cap hit would be $27 million again. 27,864 would be right about. So you're $2 million up from 2025 to 2026. And your dead cap hit for 2026 would be only $10 million. That's a big difference. That's a big difference in numbers right there. And if I'm the Packers and I'm looking at that, 2 more seasons because he becomes a free agent in 2027, 2 more seasons of you don't know if he's going to be out there or not.
Half the time, yeah, like
unless if he's willing to restructure the deal. If he's willing to restructure it, okay, maybe you think about it. But at this point, I'm not paying guy 25. You paid him 23 million this season for what? I don't even know how many games he's actually played in. We haven't seen him since what, November? I mean, I believe it's been about since November since we've seen Jair Alexander playing a football game. So you think about it that long. I was just gonna go see how many games he's actually played this season. Jair Alexander. You can't even find him on the stat list. That tells you how bad he is. You can't even find him on the stat list. He has played in. Oh, where am I at? Why can I not find it? Aaron, can you find how many games he's played in there?
Yeah, I got you.
Goodness, I can't find it there. I can't find it. But I mean, yeah, he hasn't played in months, and yet we're sitting here with this huge cap hit for a guy who isn't even out there. And we're sitting with a bunch of other guys who are making $5 million, $6 million, $10 million. I mean,
yeah,
ridiculous.
No, absolutely. I mean, he played 6 games this year. He started out the year, against the Eagles week 1. He played week 1, week 2, week 3. Then there's a little bit of gap. It might have been the bye week. It went Titans to Cardinals. So September 22nd to the 13th of October. Yeah, that's too long for a bye week there. So he missed time there. Then played against the Texans, then played against the Jags. The last time he took 6 games, like I said, and the last time he took the field was October 27th. So it being December 27th there, there you go, do the math. But been quite a while. been quite a while.
And you look career, I mean, and yeah, I know, hate looking back at career. First 3, fine. But then you look 2021, he played in 4 games. 2022, he played in 16. 2023, he played in 7. And this season, he's played in 7 so far.
That's a track record right there.
You can't pay $20-some million you can't have a cap hit of $27-some million paying to a guy who's playing 7 games. Now, I'm not next season. He could stay healthy and he could play every game. Yeah, I know I'm living in a world of hypotheticals right now, but at this point, how do you not? How do you not?
You're trending the wrong way.
Yes, you're playing the track record, and right now you're looking at a guy who can't stay healthy. And it sucks, right? I mean, you look at the flip side, everybody was like, Christian Watson, get rid of him because he's injury prone. This season, he's played in a boatload of games. And now, yes, he went out the other night there with that bruise on his knee. And I mean, that was more or less precautionary too. I mean, he was trying to go back into the game and the training staff was telling him, dude, you're sitting out. And that was big part because the Packers had a big lead, which was huge, right? You were able to sit Josh Jacobs. You were able to sit Christian Watson. You're able to sit a lot of guys in that Saints game in the second half. Josh Jacobs, his last run was, in the third quarter, at the beginning of the third quarter. And then it was, you're done. You're done for the day. That's huge, especially leading into a big matchup like this. So Jair Alexander, unless if he comes back in the playoffs and gives me 4 interceptions and just plays lockdown defense, he is on my hot seat to get sent out. I would release him in a heartbeat. I don't see a big reason why you bring him back. I guess that's the way I'm looking at it. I don't see a big reason why I bring back Jair Alexander next season there. So that's kind of where I'm looking with Jair. So let's look at the rest of the injury report just because we're there. And then I want to get into some reasons why I think the Packers can win this game against the Vikings. So Jair, we know he's out. Corey Ballantyne, full practice all week. So expecting him back for this one. That's big time cornerback there. Javian Bullard, he's questionable, limited at practice all week there. Andre Dillard, he's out for this one. Tyron Hopper, the linebacker, he did not practice on Wednesday, but he was limited Thursday and Friday. He's questionable for this one. Elton Jenkins, Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, and Luke Musgrave, they're all good to go, it looks like, in this one. Quay Walker is out again for this game here. Christian Watson's questionable. Matt LaFleur did say that Christian Watson would play if he felt like he was ready to go. So he's leaving it up to Watson to tell him, hey, I'm good. I'm ready to rock and roll, or I'm not good. I'm not going to play. So basically it's in his boat now. It's not in the medical hands. It's not in Matt LaFleur's hands. It's in Christian Watson's hands if he feels like he's ready. Quay Walker, Evan Williams, both out in this game. So you lose a couple guys defensively in this one. Offensively, you look like you're pretty healthy outside of Christian Watson, and we'll see what he does, if he's going to play or not. I think if Christian Watson is out there, it's huge. It's big time because Christian Watson has that ability to blow a top off of defense. I don't know how many times you watch the Packers and you say to yourself, well, Jordan Love completed to Tucker Kraft underneath, but he had Christian Watson blowing a guy off the top, and he's like got a 15-yard step on the guy, and he's just streaking down the field. He's got that ability to blow a top off of defense. And I think that was going to be a big in a game like this because Stephon Gilmore at one point was a stud. He was in his prime. He's a little old now. I don't trust him to match up with Christian Watson. I don't. And if you put him out there on him, if he got on him a couple times in a game, I like the odds of sending a deep ball down there to Christian Watson and just letting him turn and burn. So not having Christian Watson takes away elements of the Packers offense. It's not going to kill him. It's not going to kill him, but it's going to take an element away. So I'm watching that. I'm watching that close. I want to see Christian Watson out there. Looking at why I think the Packers can win this game. So I got a couple. First off, I got the improved pass rush, right? The Packers defensively, that pass rush has gotten better over the past couple weeks there. And I'm not bad. They were there, right? But they're more consistently getting to the quarterback, putting pressure on quarterbacks, which I think is big in this one. That improved pass rush is going to be big in this one. Cox in a bigger role. Preston Smith, we moved on from him. Brenton Cox has been fantastic for him. Lucas Van Ness has stepped up a little bit. Not what we want to see out of him yet, but he's had moments. Rashawn Gary has stepped up over the coming weeks there. The two in the middle, Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, they've been big over the last couple weeks there. So the improved pass rush is the big thing I'm looking at. And, I'm looking at this one and I'm saying the first time out against the Vikings, they had 9 total pressures in the entire game. 9 total pressures, 2 sacks, 7 hurries, 9 total pressures. That's why I'm saying this could be a game changer. In that first game, you gave Sam Darnold all the time in the world. He was able to do what he wanted. He was able to control the pocket, able to step up, make his throws when he wanted to. If the Packers can get to Sam Darnold, put pressure on him, make him make quick decisions, it takes away that element of the deep ball, takes away that element of him being able to let Justin Jefferson do some crazy crap out there in the open field and get himself open. It takes away those little things in this one. So that's where I'm kind of looking. The pass rush is a reason why I think the Packers can win this game. The run defense has been getting better week after week. They've been getting better. And I know Aaron Jones, he hasn't been fantastic, right? He's been good. Aaron Jones is always, I don't want to seem like I'm taking shots on Aaron Jones. He's still, I love Aaron Jones. He's a great back. But I believe he's only averaging like 4 point some yards per carry, maybe 4 yards per carry on the season. I believe the Vikings as a whole are averaging like 4 yards per carry on the year. So I'm looking at the run defense and I'm saying, shut it. What you got a stat up?
Yeah, 4.5 right
4.5?
now. But yeah, he, which is surprising. His last game, he's only averaging 3.7 against Seattle, but 4.5 on the season, 4.5, just over 1,000 yards. But you stack that up against a lot of other backs. Not to say 1,000 yards isn't bad, but it's not like mind-blowingly great. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's where I'm looking at the run defense. And I'm like, they've been stepping up. The defensive front's been playing better. Everybody gives Rashawn Gary all this crap in the world. And I agree, right? He should be better in the pass rush. He hasn't been. He's been getting a lot of attention, which doesn't help. But I'm looking at him saying he is huge in the run game. And that's where setting that edge, right? Don't let Aaron Jones get outside. If he gets outside, it could be dangerous. This guy's got some explosiveness. Now, you still got to plug up that middle, which I think the Packers have been a boatload better at. That Edgerrin Cooper's filled in a lot more. You have Eric Wilson and Isaiah McDuffie have been better in those areas. Isaiah McDuffie, he's better in the run game. Not as good in the pass game, better in the run game. So slowing down Aaron Jones in this one, I know he hasn't had a huge year by any standard, but keeping him in check, right? You got to keep the stars in check. Aaron Jones is still a star, so keeping him in check in this one is going to be big. You can't completely stop him, but slowing him down, right? Slowing down that run game, kind of keeping the Vikings one-dimensional if possible. Another thing, Jordan Love's healthy. Look at the first matchup. The first time these two teams squared off, this was Jordan Love coming back, right? And the Vikings jumped out to that massive lead, 28-0. And it just, you were in a hole. You were in a hole before it even started. Now Jordan Love's healthy. And I know Dustin, he was on earlier, and he was talking about the pass rush, or not the pass rush, but the pass rush of the Vikings. He was talking about the pass rush of the Vikings and saying how if they were able to get after Jordan Love, they were able to do it in that first game. Can they do it again, right? Jordan Love has that mobility now to get out of the pocket and run and make throws on the run. So when I'm looking at this now, I'm saying Jordan Love is healthy, and that changes the game. That changes what the Vikings have to do. They can't just bring an all-out blitz on Jordan Love because guess what? He's going to be, hopefully, able to evade that, right? Knock on wood, able to evade that rush and be able to get the ball off on the run and make a throw, right? First game wasn't able to do that as much. He was still limited, and we saw that. We knew that. He was still limited. Now it's like, okay, I like it. I like where we're at right now with Jordan Love. So that's a big reason. I believe the Packers learned from that first game. I did. I believe they learned from it. Josh Jacobs in that first game, Aaron, 9 carries, 51 yards. 9 carries and 51 yards. Guess what is not a good recipe for success for the Green Bay Packers? Josh Jacobs only get 9 carries for 51 yards. That'll do you dirty every single night and twice on Sunday. You can't do that. You can't do that again. And I feel like they've learned from that. Now, it didn't help. You dug yourself a hole 28-0 at one point. You dug yourself a hole. You had to throw the ball around. If Jordan Love's got to throw the ball 54 times again, I know we're screwed because then we're airing it out too much. When the Packers are at their best, it's complementary football. It's getting the ball to your playmakers, Josh Jacobs, Tucker Kraft, and that's another thing. Don't go away from Kraft. Don't go away from him. The Packers go through these stages. I mean, we talked about it at one point where there was like a 3-game stretch where they had like there was Tucker Kraft had like 3 catches or 3 targets. It was something stupid. And we're like, what is going on? This is your playmaker, right? He's not just a blocker. He's so much more than that, Tucker Kraft. He's got the ability to move the sticks. And that's something that you need at times. You need a big body tight end who you can dump it down to him for about 5 yards, and he can barrel forward for another 5 and get you a first down. So you cannot go away from your playmakers like Tucker Kraft, like Jaden Reed, like Josh Jacobs in this game. And another thing I got for you, Aaron, don't get cute. Don't get cute. Dominate the run game. Don't get cute with it. I don't want to see all these. I know the end around. I love seeing the end around at times. And against the Saints, we had 9 guys get a carry in that game. I like the end around. I like at times going after it with that. But don't get cute in this game. Just run the darn football. You got a 3rd and 2. Give it to Josh Jacobs. Let him do the dirty work. You get it on a 1st and goal from the 2-yard line. Don't get cute and try to flip it to Dontavian Wicks on some kind of stupid play where he comes in and I don't even know what that was. Don't try to do that crap. Use the guys that got you to this point. Josh Jacobs is that guy. So utilize him in this game. That's where I'm looking. You got to dominate the run game in this one, and you will win this football game. Domination. Start to finish. Run game's where it starts. Offensive line. That's the big thing I'm looking at, too, is in them trenches, man. You got to dominate the trenches. The Vikings, like you mentioned earlier, 4 yards per rush attempt on the season there. They've allowed 46 sacks. 46 sacks. That's where I'm talking. The pass rush has improved for the Packers. That's what it needs to be in this game. You got to get to Sam Darnold. You got to put him on his back. That's what you got to do in this one. Or put him on his front side, right? Dustin was talking about the blind side. Take him out in the blind side. I don't care what you got to do in this one. But looking at the flip side of it, Packers 4.7 yards per rush and only 16 sacks allowed on the season so far. That's a tale of two. I mean, you're looking at 2 different narratives right there. If you're the Packers in this one, dominate the run game. Protect Jordan Love. You'll be just fine. You'll be just fine. Stick to the little things, right? Got to put pressure on Darnold, though. That's the big thing. You got to put pressure on Darnold there because you can't shut down Justin Jefferson. You can't shut down Jordan Addison. You can't shut them down, right? They're playmakers. Those guys are going to make some plays. You're in a zone defense. There's going to be holes in that zone, right? But what you can't let happen is when you got corners out there and they're trying to play coverage, you can't let it last 7 seconds. You can't let it last 8 seconds. You can't let it last 9 seconds. You got to get in there. You got to put pressure on Sam Darnold. Make him make throws. Make him make throws. And we know he can, but make him make dangerous throws, right? And when he makes those dangerous throws, take advantage of that there. The Vikings have struggled against slot receivers too. That's where I mentioned Jaden Reed earlier. They've struggled. I believe Josh Metellus, he's been good against the run, but against the pass, I believe he was 115th out of 100 and some safeties in football. Like he's bad. He's bad against the pass. Take advantage of that. Don't go away from Jaden Reed. Let him be the dog that we know he is. And like I mentioned earlier, Watson's my guy. And if he's healthy, I think it adds more levels to what the Packers are able to do offensively. Now, I'm not saying it's going to take away completely what they can do if Watson's not out there, but the threat of him being able to go deep is in the back of every defensive coordinator's mind. They know what he can do in the open field. They know what he can do to blow a top off of defense. Not having him could hurt in this one, so we'll see what he can do there. Can they get that key stop, right? We mentioned earlier, the Vikings have 8 one-score wins on the season, and a lot of those have come from game-winning drives. Can the Packers get that stop, right? Other teams have failed to get that stop. Can the Packers get that stop? Same with the Lions game, right? They couldn't get the stop. You look at some of the other games the Packers have lost this season, getting key stops late in the game there and trying to get either Jordan Love the ball back or trying to preserve a lead. That's something I'm looking at this one. Can they get that key stop defensively? Third downs, the Vikings are 40.6% on third down. The Packers are 38.6%. So both teams relatively around that 40% mark conversions on third downs. This game's going to come down to who wins the third down battle. Who can get off the field on third down and who can convert on third down. That is something huge that I'm watching for in this one here. Outside of that, I mean, Aaron, what are you looking at? What are you looking at in this game? You're like, the Packers got to do this to pick up the win. The Vikings got to do this to pick up the win. What are you seeing in this matchup here that you're like, this is what's got to happen?
Yeah, I mean, a lot on what you mentioned before about Jordan Love, being injured early in the season. I think, that probably played a key role into him turning the ball over as much as he did in that first matchup. So what he had like at least 2, maybe 3, I think 2 picks. I don't think 3, but he at least had 2. So if I'm looking at, this current Packers team, the way they're playing, the way the offense is kind of operating, I mean, they're a lot more efficient. They're a lot more like they've been, I mean, albeit against the Saints last game, but you just got to look at it from a grand scheme, like where this team started now towards the end of the season. Where are they at now? I just think they're kind of light years different. At least with the turnovers, at least with Jordan Love, I can say that. So I think if the Packers play I'm not going to say like he can't throw 1 pick in this game or something. We talk about how Jordan Love tries to. He might be more Favre-like than Aaron Rodgers-like in the fact that he'll gunsling it. You know what I mean? He will try and fit it in tight windows at times, but I think if he comes out and maybe throws 1 interception or that type of thing, as long as he's not turning the ball over 2 or more times, I think the Packers can definitely go ahead and win this. Like they can go for the win. They're on a burner. I know the Vikings are on a burner too, but I don't know. Nothing against Dustin or anything with the high hopes for the Vikings. I just think I'm not gonna say they win ugly, but they kind of win ugly. They never really inspire me when I watch them. They never like fully, because watching teams last year, a couple stand out to me that hey, they're winning by a score here, they're winning by a score. Like that's a little too shaky jakey for me. When you go and play a team like this right now, not to say they can't win. This is definitely it's a comparable matchup as far as rosters, weapons, offense, defense. Like this kind of, you can make comparisons all over the place on all facets of the game. I think if you're the Vikings, I think you got to stop. You at least have to not stop Jacobs, but like keep him in check. Like if you let him kind of run at will all over you, you're in for it, because then the passing game opens up. Matt LaFleur is going to kind of be a lot more flexible. I think he's more willing to just kind of not run those like trick plays and stuff like that, but it gets more, it's harder to stop when you got, all these weapons and the rushing game is gushing you. That's like football 101, but I really feel like in this type of game that's going to come down to it's going to be crucial. And I think the Vikings on the opposite spectrum, they have to get their running game going with Aaron Jones. We just kind of mentioned how the Packers have clamped down to a certain degree, but if you're going to gash them early. Like I'm not saying you got to run the ball for the first 3 plays of the game, but don't be like overly pass happy with Darnold just because you have weapons and just because he's playing pretty well. Like definitely a well-balanced offense on the Viking side, just because I trust the Packers offense as a whole better. I mean, obviously I like the receiving core of the Vikings, who doesn't, but it's and kind of like Dustin had said too, though, like that blind side for Darnold. Like if the Packers can exploit that, if I'm the defensive coordinator of the Packers, I'm like, okay, we're circling that guy and we're saying we're going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at him and see what he can handle, because it's a clear weakness. I mean, if you find a weakness on the offensive line, that can that can pay dividends, I should say, for the opposition. So, yeah, I mean, this is interesting for sure. This is a game where it's much anticipated, even if you're just an NFL fan. I think this is one of those, like, you really don't know how this is going to go. I mean, the Vikings, got him first time around, different Jordan Love, but this game's in Minnesota, so it's, even with the crowd traveling, it's never as easy to pull off and Lambeau gives you when the Packers are at Lambeau, that's kind of a staple of a good team that plays good at home. Like, that is just one of those things. When the Niners are all healthy and stuff, the Niners in San Fran, like, you can point to just, there's only a handful of teams, I would say, the last, maybe 4 or 5 years, that when they're at home, you really don't want to catch them. And I think the Packers are one of them. So getting them on the road, I guess it's an advantage for Minnesota, even though, like you said, the fans will travel. But there's a lot of little things, a lot of little wrinkles in this game that, the Packers getting some help back on defense with the injuries, but then, losing out on the linebacker being hurt. Like, all those things, when you're in a game that's probably going to be as closely competitive as this, those are all going to play key roles too. So
100%. And the big thing, pre-snap penalties and turnovers. You look back at that first game there, the Packers had 4 turnovers in that game, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble in there, 4 turnovers. And you look at the pre-snap penalties, 8 penalties for 68 yards for the Packers. Those are backbreakers, right? We talked about it. That was the early on problems, right? Now, knock on wood, the Packers have cleaned that up a little bit, getting to this point now. Does that continue, right? And like we talked about, keeping Jordan Love comfortable and not getting pass heavy. Just keep what got you here. Don't get cute. Don't get stupid with it. Just do the little things right in this game, and you'll be just fine. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you so far, but since 2020, the season series has split every single year since 2020. I'm going to say it's going to split again. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to say it's going to split again. The Packers, I mean, they got a top 10 defense now. The offense is flowing. I mean, when's the last time we were able to say the Packers had a top 10 defense? It's been a while. It has been a hot minute since we've been able to say that. And I kind of like where they're at. I really like where they're at. I'm not saying anything against Minnesota. I just think the Packers are hot. This is a hot team right now. And for the Packers, there's a lot to play for too, because they are still playing for a seed. They could end up as a 7 seed yet. They could end up going to Philly for game 1. You don't want to go to Philly for game 1 of the playoffs. Like, that would suck. You want to go to the Rams. You want to go to Seattle. You want to go wherever else. You do not want to go and play Philly in game 1. So there's a lot on the line for the Packers, a lot on the line for the Vikings in this game here. Both teams in the playoffs, but outside of that, there's a lot of things that can happen in between the lines yet. So, Aaron, what are we thinking? Vikings, Packers, what do you got? Prediction.
I mean, I like the Packers more from a just team-to-team perspective as far as the matchup goes. Not like I root for the Packers more or root for the Vikings more. Just like basically lining those two teams up together. And the Packers are playing really well. Like we always say, the Vikings are playing well too. It's the eye test for me. I think the eye test makes me believe that the Packers are better. They lost the first one. I just feel like the Packers get this one. Like, it's hard to beat a team twice. It's really hard to beat a team 3 times. But, in this case, beat a team twice. I give the slight upper hand to the Packers. I mean, I think the Vikings have it in them to beat them. I don't see it here this week. So give me the Packers. I think it's gonna be a little more high scoring than Dustin had said, but maybe 3-point game. Let's go 37-34. I think this one might go like back forth gunslinging type of deal at points.
I'm going to go 31-24 Packers. I'm going to go 31-24 Packers. I think they set the tone in this one. I think they come out early. They set the tone. They control the run game. They control the clock. They clean up mistakes. And I think they play mistake-free football in this one. And I think the Packers pull this one out 31-24. So I like that one. Let's get to our picks of the week here for the NFL. We got a little bit of time here. Wrap us up for the day. We'll get to our picks in the NFL. So a smaller slate this weekend. We've had a lot of games going on already. We saw the Wednesday games, Chiefs over Steelers, Ravens over Texans. We saw the Seahawks and the Bears 6-3 game last night. That was that's atrocious. I don't even want to talk about that game. Let's get to Saturday. We got a lot of playoff implications going on Saturday because Chargers, Patriots, Broncos, Bengals. That's for a playoff spot because if the Broncos lose, the Bengals beat them. The Bengals are still in the playoff picture. They're chasing the Broncos. So the Broncos dropped the last two, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Broncos have the Chiefs in the final game of the season. The Chiefs locked up the 1 seed, so they're going to rest everybody. So we can only imagine that the Broncos should win that game. But the Bengals, if they get this head-to-head and they have some other things happen, they could still make the playoffs, and that'd be crazy. Speaking as we were once talking about this team like dumping it all, and now they're talking about a playoff picture. That's wild. And then we got Cardinals, Rams, another game with playoff implications on that one for the Rams in that one. So, Aaron, Chargers, Patriots. Who do you got in that one? Chargers right now, according to ESPN, are favored by 5.5.
Yeah, I do have the Chargers. I don't ever like those long distance, like, California to the North Coast or the Northeast Coast there. But Patriots just, how much have they really shown you this year? Not much. Chargers have something to play for as well. So, yeah, give me the Charger. I think it might be a grinded out type of game for the Chargers to pull off. Like, maybe it's not a cakewalk, but defense kind of impresses me with the Chargers too. It's not bad. And there's not much there for the New England offense. It just hasn't been. So,
okay. I like that one. I'll take the Chargers too. I like the Chargers in that one. So we both got the Chargers. Next up, we got the 3:30 game. We have the Broncos and Bengals.
Man.
Give me Cincinnati at home. And it's going to be a shootout because that's the only way they can win games. Give me Cincinnati at home. Right now, the point total is at 49.5 for that game.
Then goes over?
Yeah, I'm going to call it over. I'm going to go over 49.5. Right now, the Bengals are favored by 3.5. I think it's a touchdown game.
Yeah, I'm with you. That Broncos team is kind of, I'm not going to say they're Houston-like, but they are kind of Jekyll and Hyde. Not that the Bengals, I don't much trust there either as a team, but I trust Joe Burrow more than I trust Bo Nix right now. So, yeah, give me the Bengals as well. I think you're dead on with it's probably going to be a shootout. We've seen crazier things, but give me Cincinnati. I hope they pull that off. I really do.
Okay, like that one there. Cardinals, Rams to wrap it up. 7:00 game there. That's going to be at SoFi. Rams are favored by 6.5.
Yeah,
I think Cardinals, I like that spread. I think it's going to be a 6.5.
Yeah, Cardinals being eliminated from the playoffs last week there. I'm not going to say they're going to mail it in, but I think the Rams are going to come out kind of, hair on fire more than the Cardinals will have there. So definitely give me the Rams. I think the Rams even have a good chance of covering the spread there. With the offense they got, doesn't really matter to me what the Cardinals have on defense. I think the Rams can exploit it. So,
okay, like that one there. Next up, we picked Packers and Vikings already. We got the Jets and the Bills. I'm going to go Bills. Right now, 9.5 point spread.
Yeah, who the Bills just played so many horrible Patriots last week.
Patriots.
And they had like a 14-point spread in that one. So, seeing crazy spreads for the Bills, but for good reason. They're playing good football. Jets are far from playing good football. They're checked out.
Aaron Rodgers might be playing his best football of the year, though. He might be.
See, there's no pressure on him. That's where he thrives. Really, it's maybe he's making a push for the MVP. He's trying to get that another MVP under his belt.
He's trying to get more viewers to his Netflix documentary.
There's something going. There's some scheme going on there, I think. But yeah, Jets 4-11, make them 4-12, and Buffalo gets it.
All right, I like that one there. Next up, we have the Raiders and the Saints. This could be a barn burner. Right now, the Raiders are favored by 1.5 in New Orleans. Wow. I'm gonna take the Saints. No Mason Crosby. Give me the Saints to win that one. They played like crap against the Packers there, but let me look at the depth chart here. They don't have really anybody playing, so that's cool.
Kamara's out.
Yeah, Chris Olave's on the IR. Derek Carr's still out. So
Scantling is questionable.
give me a crazy win by Spencer Rattler next week to make it spicy for when Derek Carr comes back.
Yeah, I mean the Raiders did probably the dumbest thing. They should be throwing games right now, and they're winning. They won. So typical Raiders. I mean, you just find a way to screw things up for them. So I think they're not going to tell anybody they're going to tank this one, but I think they tank this one. Like I think the fact that they won last week, they're like, okay, now we need to lose. So the Saints aren't going to get the number 1 overall pick no matter what. They're 5-10, so they at least. Everybody was remember that 2-0 Saints team, man. Wow, everybody was hyping them up.
They were blowing teams out.
I knew it was a facade though. Like I just didn't believe it at all. I mean, obviously Derek Carr going out really put the nail in the coffin, but yeah, give me the Saints here too. I'm with you. I think the Raiders are gonna just try and lose this game. I really do think that. So NFL doesn't like it, but that's how you get a better draft pick, and you have absolutely nothing to play for. So.
True that there. So we got the Saints winning that one. It's going to be a spicy game. It's going to be quite interesting. Next up, we have the Colts and the Giants. I'm going to take the Colts. There isn't much more I need to say.
Yeah. I mean, tickets for this one at MetLife can be as low as $10. So, I mean, basically handing them out at this point. Yeah, give me the Colts as well. Even though Richardson, you never know what you're going to get with him. This Giants team is just god-awful. So, yeah, give me the Colts in that one.
All right. Next up, we have Eagles Cowboys. I'm going to take the Eagles to win that one. They're favored by 7.5. The Cowboys are playing better, and Mike McCarthy probably saved his job in that process. I think this is going to be a good game. I really do. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means, but I think Philly's too much for him, and Philly's going to get right. I mean, is Jalen Hurts? Is he in the concussion protocol?
No, he's not playing. I'm glad they didn't rush him in, even if I did not want to see him play this game. I don't.
That might make it more interesting. That might
Absolutely.
make this game a lot more interesting. That 7.5 point spread, the way the Cowboys have been playing, I don't like that spread. I mean, I wouldn't take that bet. I wouldn't take that deal. I think the Eagles win, but just because Saquon's there. Outside of that, I mean, yes, Kenny, I don't want to hate Kenny Pickett here because he's not a bad dude, but at the same time, it's like he ain't no Jalen Hurts, and the offense did not look as good when Jalen Hurts went out. Now, I know throwing into the action and everything like that doesn't help, but I think this game's going to be close, but I'm going to take the Eagles.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you there. I could see him winning by a touchdown. The 7.5 is what throws me off. Like if it was 6.5, I might, be interested in that a little bit, but it's that 0.5 that's like, yeah, I don't like that. I mean, winning by 8 is a lot different than winning by 7. Yeah, I think Kenny P taking reps with the first team. I mean, they still haven't declared that he's going to play this week because his rib injury towards the end of that game, he was like doubled over in pain. I think he will play. Like you said, I mean, he's not going to light the world on fire, but and he throws one pick. Like this guy, I don't get it, and the only reason I know this because I'm just like plugged into Philly sports, but he is getting like just crucified by the fan base, which I just don't understand. The guy hasn't played in like a year. It's not like he went out there and threw 4 picks. I mean, we've seen starting quarterbacks play worse than he did, and he's just getting – I mean, it's Philadelphia, I guess. But long story short, I mean, it's the battle of the backups, right? I mean, you're probably – I think you're going to see Kenny Pickett even if Tanner McKee, is taking some of the reps there with the first team. But Kenny Pickett's been there, done that as a starter. He's like 14-10 or something. He's got starts under his belt. Tanner McKee has 0. So, yeah, even with a banged-up Kenny Pickett, I mean, Cooper Rush has been playing better. CeeDee Lamb is not playing either, so I think that's part of the reason the spread has kind of opened up a little bit. So, yeah, give me the Eagles. I don't love the spread either, though, even without CeeDee. I don't love it. I probably wouldn't take it. Eagles money line, that's, I would think, pretty safe. But, I mean, this is a rivalry game no matter what, and it's at the link. So, yeah, give me the Eagles, but it might be interesting. It might be ugly and interesting. I don't know. I don't know what it will be.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you there. Next up, Panthers, Buccaneers. This is tough because I like the way the Panthers are playing lately. Give me the Bucs. I think they keep their playoff hopes alive. Give me the Bucs in that one. It's in Tampa. Give me the Bucs. Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. I kind of lost some confidence in Carolina since that Dallas game where they got a little bit routed a couple weeks back. I know they bounced back last week, but yeah, I think the Bucks will be too much in this one. I think that they'll do too much with, Mike Evans and the crew.
Agreed. Agree with you there. Next up, we have Titans Jaguars. I mean, I'm gonna take the Titans to win that one. I don't care. Give me the Jaguars. Give me the Jaguars just because I need Brian Thomas to light it up for fantasy in the championship round. So give me the Jags.
Yeah, I mean, man, you talk about a barn burner of a game. This is it. Who cares about Vikings Packers, right? I mean, it's Jags Titans all week, but man, my God, this might get 10 people to watch this game. I mean, this is bad stuff there. But yeah, I mean, give me man, I root for Will Levis, I really do. It's kind of hard to defend the guy at this point. Just not playing the most sound football there. The Titans are a mess, but so are the Jags. I think I'll go with you. The home team is the Jags. It's a 1-point spread on this, so nobody really wants to win this game probably, but it's give me the Jags. It's just, I don't know. Dougie P's probably out the door there too, so it's just a mess everywhere you look on this game.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Next up, 3:05 game, Dolphins, Browns. I saw that Deshaun Watson is going to restructure his contract with the Browns, so that's cool. That's cool, I guess, for the Browns. But I'm going to take the Dolphins in this one. No Jameis Winston means they suck. So there's no excitement with the Browns anymore. Give me the Dolphins. They're going to win this one.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. DTR has played horrible. I mean, he doesn't even have a touchdown on the year. 5
Yeah,
picks.
I don't know where the hope is with him anymore. Like, I don't get it. I would have just rolled it with Jameis and just said, screw it. Like, that's where I was at.
I think going away from Winston was like putting the nail in the coffin. Not that they were going to do anything, but I mean, DTR is just bad. Like, right, at least this season, he is horrible. So yeah, give me the Dolphins too. It might be an ugly game, and the Browns defense usually finds a way to show up, but yeah, they're shot. They have nothing. They have no motivation to play anymore at this point. The Browns don't.
It's like the Bears, Browns are all the same. Next up, we have the night game. This is going to be a big one. The Falcons trying to preserve playoff life, taking on the Commanders, who are trying to keep winning to move up their seeding heading into the playoffs. So what do we think? I like the Commanders. I'm going to take the Commanders to win that one and land over there. Right now, they're favored by 3.5.
Yeah, it's hard to pick against them with how Jane Daniels was playing. Penix didn't look bad in his first game, but this might be a test for him on the road. Prime time, second game of your career on prime time. It's a little rough. Thrown into the fire, kind of mid to end of the season for him. Yeah, give me the Commander. I think Atlanta's just they don't know what they're doing at this point. So yeah,
all right,
give me Washington.
All right, there we go. Last up, the Monday night game, Lions, 49ers. 49ers they're done. That's it. It's the final. They're done with it there. Though it would make it interesting if the Lions lost. It would definitely make it interesting. But I'm going to take the Lions to win that one. It's in Santa Clara, but I think the Lions walk away with the win.
Yeah, I think we agreed on every game this week, but Dan Campbell's probably circling that calendar and probably putting holes in his walls at his house because he's thinking back to that San Fran NFC Championship game that they blew, and I think he's going to try and come out there and punch San Fran in the mouth, and I hope he does. I mean, I don't like San Fran at all, so I'm here for the downfall this year of it, and yeah, Detroit just trying to keep that 1 seed. I just think they're going to be motivated. They're going to play well, and like you said, San Fran just has nothing. I hope Purdy gets sacked like 50 times. So yeah, just Detroit, go Lions. I'm all for it this week.
Just this week. After that,
it would help the Eagles more if they lost, but I just don't see it happening. So if it's not realistic, I hope they pummel them. So
yeah, no, I would agree there. So big weekend of football coming up. Holy crap, we got. Bowl games galore. We have games tomorrow in the NFL. We have games on Sunday, Packers, Vikings. We got lots this weekend here. So I can't wait to watch some football. That's all I know. Just lay down in your skibbies, whatever you got going on that day, and just kick back, watch some football. That's all you need. That's all you need for a great weekend there. So That's about all we got. We went through a lot today. We got Badger basketball talk. We went Badger football. We went Packers. We got everything in today. Just wanted to say thank you again. If Dustin is still out there watching the show, thank you again for coming on today, talking Vikings with us there. But with that, for Aaron and myself, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you all for tuning in. We hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. But until we talk to you guys again on Sunday,